all that little riff. It's like,
You're listening to Fox on the Wire podcast.
G'day, folks, and welcome to a very special episode of Fox on the Wire. Today we have a very special Glenn, very special guest, an old friend of mine who I haven't seen for a little while, and he's going to help me out with today's episode with his expertise. Glenn, welcome to Fox on the Wire.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's quite a remarkable time of the year when you think about it. You know, I ain't 30 years old.
That's it.
It's one of those things that really makes you feel old too, knowing that it is 30 years old. It's, being one of those albums it feels like it only come out just a couple of years ago. And just the rawness of that album and everything, it's just such an unforgettable album that, one of those few rare albums in the world that you can listen to right from the start to the very end of the album.
Yeah, Glenn's obviously talking about Vulgar Display of Power by Pantera, which has just turned 30 years old, released on February 25th, 1992. An unrelenting slab of precision riffs and cathartic energy as explained by Loudwire. So, Glenn, for those out there in podcast land who don't know you, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been into music all my life, pretty much. To be honest, I'm going to be one of those people to say I was originally into pop music, mate. Love my pop music, Michael Jackson, all that sort of thing.
Me too.
And one day I remember in the early days of hearing, what was it? It was Alice Cooper, Poison.
Oh, yeah,
and that hit the charts.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, look at this. I remember I was like, what about 10 or 11, I reckon I would have been. And I remember seeing the film clip for Poison. And 10, 11-year-old boy watching that film clip is like, I'm liking this. This is really, really good. And I started getting into it a bit more. And then I, Ugly Kid Joe come out. And that was rocking and real ballsy, if I could say it. And, I was one of those kids at school. I was like didn't have many, real introvert sort of kid at school. And one day I come to school with, remember the old Hot Metal magazines?
Yeah, Hot Metal. No, I don't remember Hot Metal.
So Hot Metal was an Australian heavy metal magazine. And, they had all your posters and all, pretty much like Metal Hammer and all that, but the Australian version. And, that's where we get all our posters from, being in the metal days. There was still a few of the old ones around, like you could get Hit Parader and, Circus Magazine and all that sort of thing. But Hot Metal was the Australian one. So if you wanted your metal gossip or wanted to know what was coming out, that was your go-to pretty much, because you think about it, back in the early 90s, we didn't have the internet then. We didn't have Google.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that stuff. So if you wanted to know if someone was bringing out a new album, that was your go-to every month. Anyway, Hot Metal was just amazing. That's where we, as I said, we'd find out a lot of our stuff. And, I remember, as a kid, music was everything, especially in the 90s. Music was a lot of the 90s kids' lives. And, got me, after hearing Pantera for the first time and Metallica, I was one of these kids that were constantly clapping all the time and stuff like that. I mean, Mum used to go nuts. She used to crack the shit.
People don't like that shit.
No, they don't.
I still do it.
And they don't. It's like you're just making noise to them, but in your head, you're being creative. You're creating this music or just replicating something you've heard, but to them it's just hearing. And you just get to shut up all the time and go to your room and do that shit. And it's like, crap. So then, after a while, I got my first drum kit and stuff and learned to play drums. I had a couple of years of drum lessons and got into a couple of little smaller bands and that sort of thing. Alpha State was one of those bands back in the day. So I was the original drummer for Alpha State, and they ended up making a pretty big name for themselves in around Melbourne and that, where we'd be playing to a couple hundred people every show and that sort of thing, which is a pretty big thing to do back in the day.
So how old were you at that stage?
I would have been around. Oh, mate, you're making me think here. Probably around about 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
So that was one of the bands I played. I also did a cover band for a little while. I think a lot of people will start playing covers and that when they first play. But Alpha State was my first original band that I got into. And from then it's been a few other cover bands, playing all your big hits and that, just trying to earn a bit of an income, a bit of extra money in the back pocket sort of thing, which is always good to have, make that money, and all that money you make goes into new gear all the time. It's a never ending thing. It's like, it's probably one of my regrets, it's like, as much as I love being a drummer, it's like, I wish I'd learned to play guitar.
Oh, really?
It's so much cheaper.
Okay, Dave Grohl.
Yeah. But it really is, you've got your upkeep of your skins all the time. You go and buy a set of strings for your guitar, you're looking at $15, $20, 25, 30 at the max, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they've gone up fairly recently.
Oh, have they?
So, yeah, but that's all right. They're still cheaper than drum skins.
Yeah, and then you've got your sticks you've got to go and buy constantly. You get 2 or 3 rehearsals out of a pair of sticks and they snap all of a sudden. It's like, oh man, I'm gonna go buy another one, and you get a crack in the cymbal, and then your cymbals are like $300, $400, $500 a cymbal. So it definitely is cheaper to play guitar than once you're set up for guitar. The only thing you guys have to deal with is your addiction to stop buying guitars,
which never ends.
Well, that's right. So
that's my new one behind me, the Schecter.
Yeah, it's real nice.
I saw it
really
and fell
lovely,
in love.
Lovely colour in that one.
Another thing with drummers, I guess, if you got sort of shitty bandmates, you're left lugging all your stuff to and from the car and from the venue or rehearsal.
Don't I know that?
I was never that guy. I always helped.
Nah, that's good. You're one of those good guys, mate. A rare breed, I call them. A rare breed, It's always the way. It used to annoy the crap out of me all the time because I used to be the drummer in Catwitch as well.
Oh, yeah. I remember that now, yeah.
Back in the day. And Kieran, he was an exceptional guy, really exceptional guy, but he used to make me laugh all the time because, he'd be in there 2 hours early setting up the drums and everything. Here comes Kieran walking in with his microphone in hand, hops on stage, puts it in, clips it in.
He's done.
Little sound check and he was done.
Yeah. So much easier. He could fit that in his back pocket.
Yeah, quite literally in the back pocket there. Wow. And it was all done. But, music has been an exceptional part of my life. It really still is. It's one of those things. Once I don't know how do you put it. It's like it's almost music. For my teenage years, anyway, music controlled my life. It really took me to places. Really got my imagination flowing. Really pulls out the creative side in you and really shows you a different lifestyle to what other people lived, especially back in the 90s where, we'd just gone through that phase, that early 90s, where we'd gone through that phase where heavy metal was trying to be outlawed in some countries and that sort of thing because of being bad influences and stuff like that. We had all those issues with Body Count and Ice-T back in the day, and then Dee Snider stuck up for heavy metal. Yeah. When they tried to ban it, and this is where all these censorship laws started back with heavy metal. Why you see those, these are parental advisory. Yeah. Because of those days. Yeah. And but as it come out, and we still claim that to this day now that it's an art form. It's a way for us to express ourselves, regardless whether you're just screaming into a microphone or talking your deepest, darkest thoughts. Let's look at Tom Araya from Slayer, right? That band, some of their lyrics are bloody incredible, right? But then you look at Tom Araya, he was a huge Catholic gentleman. Huge Catholic gentleman. They might have sang songs about Satan and, killing people or whatnot. but it's just an art form.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. It really allowed that creative expression to come in. It allowed fellow metalheads to be able to unite, and we still do it to this day. If you see a bloke walking down the street with a heavy metal shirt on, first thing you do is you give him a nod, or you give him the devil horns.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that respect.
It's a community. It's like, I never considered myself a metalhead because I'm into all sorts of music, not just exclusively metal, but with a band like Pantera and a few others, I love those bands like with everything, and I've loved them for, a few decades now, and they're always very close by, you know what I mean? And
those albums are just so close to my heart. It's like, I might not listen to them for a few months or whatever, but every time I do, put this album on, it's just like, it kicks in. It's one of those things. I'm 43 years old now, and as soon as I put that back on it, it's like a time machine almost, and it just takes you straight back to those days, and you have those nostalgic moments.
Yep.
And it's just the power the Pantera had, the influence they had on the metal community was insane. It was a whole new genre of metal that had just come out, and I think Pantera were one of those few bands that just touched everyone in some way or another, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Everyone had some form of connection to Pantera. I
remember when I was in primary school, I wasn't into them at that stage, but I'd drive to school every morning, and there'd be like a local guy, a bit of a misfit. He'd have a Pantera t-shirt on almost every day, like long black hair, and he's had these, because Pantera had really good artwork and good t-shirts.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And he'd have a different one every time, and I always took notice of those t-shirts because he was like the weirdo of the town, I guess. But now I totally get it. Like, he was just ahead of his time, I guess. And Pantera just took metal to a whole new level.
Yeah, yep.
To quote A New Level, the song.
Yeah, exactly right. You even think about Pantera and where they come from as well, with their early albums such as Metal Magic and Projects in the Jungle and I Am the Night. And it's like, you listen to those albums and you go, there's no way known this is Pantera. Especially when you're hearing, Terry's vocals on those early albums, and then obviously with Metal, I think it was Metal Magic that Phil come into it, I think.
Was he on that one? Or was Cowboys his first?
No. He played on one of those earlier power metal, was sung on one of those earlier power metal ones. But there's one thing that stuck with me when you're listening to those things. Dime's tone in his guitar.
Yeah.
It never changed throughout his entire history of playing. He always had that same tone, and it's what gave Pantera that edge, that sound.
Yeah, he's got to be, it's hard to say this in the right way, but he's one of the best, like, hands down. He just, I'm a big fan of a lot of guitarists. I play guitar myself, but Dime was in his own league. Just the way he just ate the guitar,
Well, you're right, man. You sit there and you think about those guitar greats such as Steve Vai and Yngwie Malmsteen and stuff like that. Great guitarists, and you listen to them and they'll do a massive sound or play a massive solo and that.
Yeah.
But the thing that always got me with those guys is it just sounded like a normal rock guitar.
Yeah.
Where, to me, Dime had that edgy sound to it. You know what I mean? He, a lot of guitarists would scoop those mids out, where Dime preferred to push those mids out, really push those mids out. And, he was well known on recording these albums where he would have his guitar in the left channel, guitar in the right channel separately.
Yeah.
But then he would do the one thing that no other guitarist would do, and they'd have a third track going stereo, which just gave him that really full sound. And to me, that's the Pantera sound.
It's a massive wall of guitar, but I see Phil Anselmo trying to explain Dime's playing and just how he was a step above everybody else, like I think he just had heart. Like you could hear his heart in his playing, and he doesn't sound like anyone else. No one else sounds like him. Whereas a lot of the really great metal guitarists, like maybe Steve Vai and Satriani and, you know, countless others, like a lot of those solos and stuff started to mimic each other. Even Eddie Van Halen, like he's up there too, and a lot of people started to mimic him. But Dime just had something in his playing, and I think it was just purely his love.
Yeah, you know, I was one of those fortunate people. I got to see Pantera back in 1994,
right?
And just to see him play live, and you know. Oh, the best part was, man, I've got to tell this story, right?
Tell it.
So, 1994, I remember it was, I had tickets. It was Tuesday, the 11th of August, 1994.
Wow.
That's how much of an impact this, because that was my very first concert that I bought tickets for.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some mates who came down from Orbost to go to the concert, and we were all going to go together, and we thought, well, they had a show on the Monday night too. So we thought, well, let's go down on the Monday night and we'll suss it all out and see where we have to go and everything. And I remember we got to the front. It was at Festival Hall. And we got to the front there, and we could hear him play, and we could hear it, and it sounded amazing even through, you know, from the outside. And we're walking around Festival Hall, and there was a couple of doors at the back there, and we just started, you know, just knocking on the door, banging on the doors to see if they were open.
Yeah.
Next minute, this dude's opened the door, and he's gone, "Run, dudes, the security's coming." So we've just nailed it straight into this door, and I remember just looking down into the pit and just seeing this pit go wild. Now, we're only 2 songs left, but I remember we ran down the stairs, and this is before Festival Hall put up that barrier. They've got a barrier. I don't know, is it even still around Festival Hall now?
I haven't been there for.
Yeah,
I think
been there for years.
Didn't they sell it, or it's doing something else now?
But anyway, they had a barrier. They didn't have a barrier there. It was just like a concrete ledge, and we just scaled over there, because once you got into the pit, security's not coming in there to find you.
Yeah.
And I remember going in there, and it was, you know, I can't remember that song that I come in, because all I was worried about was trying to get in there without getting caught.
Yeah.
But I remember it was we got in there, and it was the end of the night anyway, so the last song, and it was Cowboys from Hell. Yeah. They closed it, and I just remember like all the going whole dark, and you know, and all the strobes are just going off. And you know, this is the first time I've seen anything of a sort, and I was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And then the sound just kicked in, and we're just moshing, and you know, people are falling down, you're picking them up and throwing them back over the top, and everyone's crowd surfing.
Yeah.
And it was such an amazing experience. So, and that just really set the tone for the next night. We got there at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, we're only 16 years old at the time.
Yeah.
We got a backpack full of booze and stuff. We're sitting out the front of Festival Hall drinking all day, no food at all.
Yeah.
By the time, I just remember going home that night and just, I can't even describe it, mate. That was like, that was go for me. That was go. From then on, you know, every single night I'd go to sleep listening to Pantera or Metallica or playing some form of metal. You know, back then for me, you know, my very first album that I bought, heavy metal album on CD I bought, was Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction, Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power, and Body Count's album.
Yeah, right.
I bought the 3 of those all at the same time. And I think the week after that, I went and bought Metallica, the Black Album, and Metallica, Ride the Lightning. And, you know, that was my introduction to metal pretty much.
Not a bad one.
Yeah, back then. And like I was listening to it for a while and stuff. I had those albums for a while, but it was just incredible, man. It's like, I guess, you know, everybody has that moment in time where you wish you could go back to. And for me, it was that time. It's almost like it was that time where I found myself. I found almost like a calling, something that I could relate to with someone finally without being that introvert that I was always known for being, you know, that weird kid that just stood around and not talking or not saying anything because you're worried about what other people are going to think. And all of a sudden, metal just creates that whole world for you.
So you found your people. So really, metal isn't a dangerous thing. It's actually a savior. Hard rock, metal, whatever you want to, you know.
I don't even know how to say that, man. That's like you just hit the nail on the head. It is a savior, man.
It is.
It really was a savior. You know, you listen to some of the lyrics in that of those songs, and people interpret lyrics how they want. Like people always want to know, you know, what was Phil's, you know, whole mentality about writing some of the lyrics for these songs. But at the same time, you might hear something like "Hollow" is a really good song for that. It's, you know, it's a tearjerker of a song, you know what I mean? And it's like we can all relate to that in some way or another. You know, someone we've lost, or, you know, it's not even have to be about someone lost. It could be about, you know, a friend that you no longer talk to anymore because you just lost traction. And, you know, there's interpretation is a big thing. It's a whole nother side of creativity that doesn't get discussed much about, if that makes sense.
And that's what makes it yours as the listener. Like you interpret it, I guess, how you want to. And just because Phil wrote it, I think he wrote Hollow about, didn't a few of his friends commit suicide and stuff like that? So, you know, obviously not all of us can relate to that, but we feel his pain and we may interpret some of the lyrics in our own way, and that's fine. It makes the whole thing go around. And that's, you know, when I feel angry, generally I'll chuck on Pantera instead of going out and, you know, causing a ruckus somewhere. I'll just crawl into my own little world and chuck on Pantera. It makes me feel better. And
it gets the blood pumping, doesn't it? Like it really gets that blood flowing inside you, and that sort of like, you know what it is? It allows you to channel that rage inside you into this one song, and, you know, you just go off in your head. Or, you know, even if you're sitting, I remember that's how I met one of my exes one time. Is I was in my room with my window open. My window faced the front of the house, and here I was headbanging to Pantera, and she's walked past and seen me and gave me the devil horns. I'm like, oh, who's this chick? And little did I know, because it was the first day I moved in, she was my next door neighbour.
Oh, nice. Wow, there you go. Well, you know, when I've had rough moments, I chuck on music. And I remember one time with an ex, you know, there was a bit of drama. I ran home and I chucked on Use Your Illusion 1, The Garden in particular, because Slash's solo in that song just does something for me, and I just fucking cranked it. And another night was Nirvana. I put two speakers and I put my head in the middle of it. Just, you know.
I think everyone's done that at some point. You just crank it up as loud. Please don't do it in this day and age. I'm deaf in my left ear now, you know, from playing drums all those years and not wearing hearing protection. So if you play music, guys, just wear that hearing protection. Trust me.
Yep.
But, you know, it's just one of those stupid things we've done as kids. You lay down, speakers on, loud as you can, right next to each ear, and you just absorb that whole sound, and you're just loving it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't recommend it, but it worked for whatever I was trying to do at that stage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess, you know, Vulgar being, I think it was their sixth album. I believe it was their sixth album. And, you know, it was the next one following Cowboys. And Dime and Vinny's dad, Jerry. Dime and Vinny are brothers, if anyone who doesn't know that out there. He said everyone in the band was gunning to make a heavier and more brutal album after Cowboys, which was sort of more in the vein of maybe Judas Priest and maybe some of those earlier metal bands, but they had a different idea of how to reach the next plateau of heaviness, and they were fully driven as anyone could be, and they were pumped. And, you know, you look at the home videos.
Oh, yes.
They got the best home videos, Pantera, and they were just driven. Like
they really were. It was all, you know, they really were rock stars, weren't they? I mean, you watch those videos and it really was just sex, drugs and rock and roll and just fun and games, you know, everything you hear about, you know, rock stars and that, smashing up rooms and that, they did it all. And, you know, you'd sit there watching those videos over and over again going, how awesome would it be to just have one drinking session with them?
Oh, wow, yeah.
But
I mean, you could argue they took that whole thing to a whole new level too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, everyone talks about it. You know, whenever they met Dimebag for the first time, the first thing he would do is throw a drink in their face.
Yep.
And go, here you go. And
get on
it. He'd give him his signature bloody black tooth grin.
And what did you bring with you today?
I did, mate. I've in support of good old mate Dimebag. I bought us a bottle of Crown Royal, mate. And now here's the worst part. I have to apologise for this. I couldn't get Seagram 7, but I did get the Seagrams low though, so it's still Seagrams.
Yeah.
But what do you say we make one?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, mate. You got a glass handy there?
I do.
So Dime invented this drink, which he called the Black Tooth Grin, and he named after one of Megadeth's songs, Sweating Bullets, because in that song he goes, and smile, it's Black Tooth Grin.
Yep.
And what it is, it's pretty much 2 shots
Thank you.
of Crown Royal.
Yeah.
That's your one. I'll just pour mine here.
And I found out that Vulgar Display of Power, that was actually from The Exorcist. That was a line in The Exorcist movie.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And I actually pulled up the YouTube clip of that. And like with all funny little things like that, you go down to the comments and people are like, are you guys here for Pantera too? You know, best album name ever. So it's equal parts of the drinks pretty much. So 2 shots of the Royal Crown and 2 parts of Seagrams. Beautiful.
Now,
legend.
One of our Dime's specialty, a lot of people would drink this straight up like this.
Yeah.
But Dime apparently didn't like the taste of it. So what he used to do, just to take the edge off, he'd add a little splash of Coke to it, mate. So I reckon we do that anyway, because I haven't had a drink for a while, mate. And I reckon it's going to be a little bit of a...
He's come prepared today.
I really have. But I mean, look, you cannot talk about Pantera and not have one of these.
Yeah. I'm down. I can't say I've had these before, so... No.
So, now you need to remember, I was reading about them this morning on my way here, actually, and even though it's Dime's invention, it was... the drink itself wasn't meant to be really a shot. It was meant to be sipped. Yeah. But, of course, they just used to do the 2 parts and 2 parts, and pretty much, what was it? Can you remember his famous saying, mate? What was it?
Oh, get your pull.
Get your pull, or what else? Watch it go.
Oh, yeah.
And
oh, shit. Oh, that's why he's got his beard, to catch all that extra shit.
Saves it. Woo.
All right. There we go.
What? It's not a bad. It's going to warm you up a bit, but it's not.
I've got to control the audio and the video here. Is this a good idea for me?
You'll be right, mate. You'll be right.
All right, here it goes.
Watch him go, guys.
Get your pull.
And then the best part, that Canadian whiskey it's not harsh at all. Like, how good does it taste?
Good. Oh, man.
Woo. Could you imagine how they just meeting Dimebag and him just throwing one of them in your face straight away for the first time. And he was real notorious for...
Yeah.
You couldn't tell him no. You had to have it.
Yeah. And especially with the enthusiasm that he would do. Like, he was a very, what's the word?
Extroverted.
Yeah. And, not influential. Charismatic. Very charismatic guy.
Hugely charismatic, yeah.
So, you'd find it pretty hard. I can just imagine going on tour with these guys, and especially Dime. Oh, my God.
Yep. And I guess, again, mate, I really don't want you to hate me, mate, but you know, back to that 1994 tour.
Yeah.
One of the bonuses about that is they actually did a in-store signing at Virgin Megastore in Burke Street.
Oh wow.
And I remember I was there that day, and they tried making everyone buy stuff to get it signed and that, but, you know, guys were showing up with their guitars and getting guitars signed and everything.
Yeah.
And management were trying to tell them, but in the end, they just didn't win it all. And, you know, it was just insane. Dimebag was, you know, I remember Dimebag was off his tree. He was like, they were all recovering guys.
Yeah.
You know, and because they did that on the Monday, and it was just amazing to be able to meet your idol, I suppose. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's like, and as I said, it all just fell together for me after that, and it just really shaped who I was as a person back then in the 90s. You know.
So being a drummer, obviously, I reckon Vinny's one of the best drummers, one of the best metal drummers, and he was great to watch. He had a fucking great sound, like, and his drum sound on every album, I felt like got better and bigger. So was he a big influence on you, as a drummer?
Like you wouldn't believe, you know, back in the 90s, you know, I didn't come from a wealthy family or anything, so I didn't have a drum kit at all, mate, you know what I mean? So me learning to play drums pretty much, you know, doing lessons at school on an actual drum kit, but then going home and practicing on chairs and stuff, and you know, it's what a lot of drummers do. Yeah, exactly, man, you know. Yeah. And so I'd go home and put Vulgar on, and you'd sit there learning these songs and playing along to them on the chair and stuff like that. Yeah. And no doubt about it, man, Vinny was a massive influence. Him and Lars Ulrich from Metallica, if it wasn't for them two, man, I honestly don't think I would have been playing drums, to be honest.
But you watch Vinny, like, just the way his kit is set up even, and the way he sits behind it, he's just controlling that fucking region, and just
he had those really big toms too. Like, most people don't have those, like, you know, back then they didn't have the square rounded toms. So he had the abnormal huge tom sort of thing, which helped get him those really big sounds. And you know, he was just such a powerful player. And I guess that's why, I mean, you know, one of my things that I grew up doing, I was always a hard hitter playing drums. I can't play drums soft. And I left the band because, you know, they kept having a go at me about playing so hard all the time. And I said, it's my style. Yeah. You can't just go, I'm just going to play lightly, because you start playing lightly and you lose feel. Mm-hmm. You lose feel, you know. Mm-hmm. You sit there and try telling Vinnie Paul not to play loudly. Yeah. You know.
Well, I always liked his double kick stuff, like, especially, I think he took it up another notch on Far Beyond Driven. Songs like Becoming, thank you. And then that double kick pattern. What the hell? I can't even do that with my hands, let alone my feet.
Yep, it's just insane. And then again, he takes it up another notch on Great Southern Trendkill with 13 Steps to Nowhere.
Oh yeah. Oh, how heavy is that song? That's
he gets that little triplet pattern going.
Yeah. Fuck. Not to get too far away from Vulgar, but I think Trendkill's probably my favourite Pantera album. What about yours?
I'll say one thing, mate. Yeah. One thing about the Great Southern Trendkill. By far, that was the loudest album I have ever heard. Yeah. Now, when I say that, yes, we can control the volume on our stereos, but if you were to go and play every album you own and have them all turned up to 5 or so, they're all at a certain level. They're all recorded at a certain level. Mm. But then you put on Great Southern Trendkill and you put that on 5, like the rest of them, and the volume level was just so much higher. And then you've got Seth scream at the start of Suicide Note Part 2.
Oh, man.
And it really set the tone for that entire album.
Yeah. No, that's... I think, you know, it's hard to pick a favourite, and they all have their place, obviously, but Trendkill for me was probably the heaviest and the darkest and the loudest.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely say it was the darkest album they've done.
Yeah, and I think they just all had their individual elements really honed in. Like, they've been good on every album, but Vinny's drums sounded fucking solid as. Dime's guitars were bigger than ever. Phil's vocals, and Rex, of course, with his bass. You know, I think they hit a peak there.
They
Even if
really
it wasn't
did.
commercially a peak,
Yep.
you know, but it was a different time. But so Cowboys was released in 1990.
Yep.
And Vulgar in 92. Now, that year in between, 91, that was a big year for music.
Huge.
You had albums, which I've covered on this show. You know, I
Guns
can't
N'
help myself.
Roses and-
Slave to the Grind, Nevermind, Bad Motorfinger by Soundgarden, Chili Peppers, Aussie, No More Tears.
10.
Was it 92? 91, yeah.
I think it was 91.
91, yeah. Yep.
Yep, for
I'm
10.
not much of a Pearl Jam fan these days.
Oh.
Yeah. But, and even Tupac released his debut album, Tupacalypse. So yeah, Pantera, and then, you know, that was a massive year for music. And then start in 92 Feb, Pantera just came in with a crushing Vulgar Display of Power.
They really did, man. And it's like, I can't stress this enough, man. It's like all the music that was coming out then, it's like, if you even listen to black metal and that, like Deicide, I was right in Deicide then as well. And, you know, they're considered death metal in this day and age, but, you know, back then they were considered black metal because, you know, lyric content and all that was brutal. You know, that was a really brutal album and that, but nothing just had that volume like this album did, man. Nothing had that volume. And it really smashed it. I mean, you think about it, the first thing you put this album on and you're listening, whether you had a cassette at the time, because cassettes were still around then,
Yeah.
and you'd put the cassette and you get that,
Oh, yeah.
and you just get smashed with that. And it's like, what a way to open up an album.
I was thinking that too. It's like, it's the perfect opener for that album. And, you know, A Mouth for War, you know, had a great video as well.
It really did. And that had Phil smashing the cinder blocks with the sledgehammer. And, you know, it was a really raw footage too, because you can see all the track work at the end from the grips and that, where they're doing the footage around Vinnie Paul's drum kit and stuff like that. It was an really amazing song. And you know, that's one of the things that, as you know, even to this day, bands still need to do. They need to pick that really important song that's going to set the tone for the whole album.
And I think that was the first single off the album. And I believe Phil came out probably just the other day, I think it was, and said that he basically wrote that main riff. Like, he showed Dime, and then Dime obviously tore it up and made it his own.
Probably pulled it apart. And,
But, you know, it's just got some great... and Dime's solo in that song, I mean... He's just all over this album, and
he really is just a genius, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really, like as we were saying before, I don't want to keep repeating it, man, but it's just so true. He was such a unique guitarist. To me, he just stands above everyone. You know, you look at, you know, what is it, Rolling Stones, best guitarist of all time and stuff, and he still made it right up there at the top, you know what I mean, out of every guitarist in the world. And I think a lot of that comes down to his uniqueness. Yeah,
and he sort of he stuck with his own sort of southern country metal style all along. He just stuck in his own little thing, and he did what he wanted. And I think this song, Mouth for War, ranked as number 7 on Metal Hammer's list of top 50 Pantera songs, which would be a pretty hard list to put together, admittedly.
That would be incredibly hard, man. How do you even start to judge it? How do you start to put his songs into a, you know?
Well, Mouth for War is definitely top 10, you know, I reckon. And it comes down to Dime's riffs and his solo in the song, which is really cool. And even the way they finish the song, like, it's a really cool outro. And Phil said this song was about channeling your hate into something productive. It's kind of like what we talked about before.
Heavy metal. Yeah. Channel it into something really productive instead of, you know, it's almost like if you can channel that hate into a thought or a process rather than letting it expel from your body, it's so much better for you. And even this day now, in our younger days, we all done crazy things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'd get angry and you'd punch a hole in the wall or anything, but as a metalhead, it's like you could take that rage out in your head and just start headbanging in your room or screaming at the top of your lungs, and you just get that rage and that aggression all out of you. And it's like after you do that, it's like you feel good, you feel pumped
better.
and you feel better.
Because you got to do something with that energy,
Otherwise,
whether you like it or not.
Or you're just bottling it up, which, as we know, is never good for anyone to do.
Yeah. I'll just turn that aircon up, mate.
Yeah, you're right, mate.
Starting to cook, aren't we?
Yeah. I think it was the shot, mate.
Oh, my God.
Just heat it.
Do a shot, like... He made me do it.
That was good.
Oh, fuck.
Really was good.
Yeah, I think that warmed us up, that shot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We were all right before
I wasn't
that.
expecting it. Like, it was a really good shot, but it was like, warm the body up. No wonder Don loves them so much.
So Terry Date was the producer of Vulgar Display of Power.
Plus Vinnie Paul.
Plus
Vinnie Paul.
He got a credit on the back of the album there. And Terry also produced Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah.
And a lot of other kick-ass metal albums before that and after it, including Soundgarden, Mother Love Bone, Screaming Trees. Rest in peace, Mark Lanigan, by the way.
Yep, definitely.
Dream Theater, Metal Church, and many, many more. And I think he do Far Beyond Driven? Oh, I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I think he did.
I think he did too, to be honest.
And Great Southern Tranquil, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So they recorded this at Pantego Sound Studio in Texas, which was actually owned by Diamond Vinny's father Jerry.
Yeah,
Abbott.
Jerry.
Yeah. So
I think that's where Vinny got a lot of his sound tech skills from, is learning from his father.
So that explains the co-producer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, you think about it, when you listen to Vinnie Paul's kick drum on that, it was that real distinctive. It wasn't a thud like you'd get with most kick drums. It was a real click sort of sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you had that distinctive click and thud going on at the same time, which really, really made it stand out.
Yeah, it punched through, didn't it? Like
really did punch through. But it was just incredible to. I'm good, mate. I'm good, mate. You can have the water there. Water is evil, for anyone who wants to know.
Yeah.
That's just my chain of thought. But yeah, Jerry was amazing to have his own studio and stuff, and let the guys record in that studio, and just to know that those albums come from a home studio per se. When you think about it, it's quite incredible. When you think about, Dave Grohl recording at Sound City and stuff like that, on these massive mixing desks and stuff, where I'm not sure what sort of equipment they use, but I doubt they would have had that huge controlling desk that they had at Sound Studios and that sort of thing. So I guess, as Phil and Rex spoke, I don't know if you saw that interview they did,
with Revolver?
Yeah, with Revolver. Last week, was it? Last week?
Yeah, I think it was last
something.
Week.
And he was just talking about that, how they were really able to, having that home studio there, they were really able to work on their sound and really hone in on getting the right sounds for those albums there. And, I've got to ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
How many times as a kid, right, did you sit there and you pulled your guitar and you tune it and you're trying to replicate Pantera songs, but you can never get his tone, could you?
No.
And I only found out why the other day, and it really blew my mind, but it makes heaps of sense. So apparently, I can't even remember where I saw this. I don't know if it was even Rex talking about this the other day or not. But apparently what Dime would do, he would tune his guitar, but then what he would do, the last 3 strings, he would tune them down. So instead of it being 440, like every other string, he would tune it down to like 420 or 430. So it would be almost that quarter step lower than what it should be, which gave him that sort of that really sludgy sort of tone.
Yeah.
With those real mid sort of right there. So if you sat there and think about it and you tune your guitar down to a standard E or a D string and you're trying to play, you know, on broken or anything, you can never quite, it would never quite sound the same, no matter what sort of distortion you would put on it.
I remember I read something about basically Metallica and Dime. So I think it might have been James and Dime, or maybe Kirk and Dime. I think Phil was talking about it, and one or the other was sort of giving tips or helping out the other with tone, and I think Dime might have been helping out with technique, or it was around the other way. Like, I can't remember exactly. You know, you watch all these sort of documentaries when you've had a few drinks, and some of it sticks, but not all of it. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, Dime's tone is not to be fucked with. It's it stands on its own, and that comes down to his playing technique as well as you know, the gear that he uses.
I remember Phil talking years ago in another interview where he's like, you know, you've seen so many bands they've seen so many bands come and go that have tried to replicate that Pantera sound, and no one can ever get it.
No
one has ever been close to trying to replicate that sort of a sound.
No.
I think, again, it's that sound, it's that Pantera sound. You'll never hear it again. Never.
I think that comes down to Vinny and Dime as well. And it's not to take anything away from the other two guys, but being brothers, like they grew up jamming together.
Yep.
Like they would have been synced in with each other, you know, on all new
kids,
levels.
Man, young kids playing with each other their entire lives.
Much like Alex and Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
You know, you can't...
you can't take that musicianship away from them.
Yeah.
And that's what it all comes down to, is that musicianship. But I mean, what are those key things as well? Like, we've spoken about Dime and Vinny and little bits of Phil, but we've really forgot about Rex at the moment, haven't we? Let's talk about Rex for a moment, because you think about it, I remember seeing Rex play live, and man, did that guy, like, he owned that bass. He really owned. I'd never seen anyone just run around on a stage with his massive bass. I mean, that being a sort of, you know, skinny guy that he was, a lanky guy that he was, and run around on stage with his massive bass and the tone he had in that bass. And I was talking about this with a mate yesterday about this, and it's like Dom had that signature sort of guitar sound, and Vinny had the signature drum sound and that. Rex, man, he was no different.
Yeah.
If you sit there and you pull his sounds apart, he had that real fat chunkiness in that bass, like, but you could still hear the high sort of tones in the bass. You weren't just hearing the wob-wobs from the bass like you normally did back in the day from those sort of things. You know, it was just really out there, just really driving. Him and Vinny had that real rhythm section absolutely covered there, and it's almost like Dime's guitars just accented it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the best time to hear Rex is on a few of these songs on Vulgar especially, and probably on a lot of the albums when Dime would play a solo and he wouldn't track like a rhythm guitar, so it'd be just Rex underneath, and you can hear how heavy that bass is. It sounds, and it's a really great tone, and it gives a bit more room to breathe for Dime's solo. But yeah, Rex and Vinny sound great together, and I really like it when it's just bass and drums under those solos. it just sounds really heavy. And there are a few of those songs on Vulgar. But yeah, Rex, I mean, I guess Dime's guitars just saturate initially what you hear, but the bass is there.
Oh,
it is there.
Well and truly. And, I guess, we can't do it now, but if you got that technology out there to be able to extract all the instruments away and pull everything apart, actually just have a listen to those tones, it's just, it's insane. And you listen to music these days, and look, to me, in all honesty, don't get me wrong, I love some of today's music, man, but it's just, a lot of stuff is just way overproduced these days, and you just don't hear the qualities and the tones. Yeah, that real raw sounds of those instruments.
Yeah, I mean, they did pick these songs apart in the studio and made sure they had every note spot on, but it still sounds like they're jamming. So but I guess that's just a credit to the great players that they were, and it doesn't sound overproduced.
Not at all.
Like, albums these days. So I don't know if that's like something that comes down to like recording technique or just general playability of whoever's playing. But they did make sure they had every note. I think I read that they'd strip the drums away and listen to the bass and guitar together to make sure
that was all locked in. All the instruments were all locked in together. But in saying that, again, it's like, I remember him talking about, I can't remember who it was, one of the guys anyway, talking about when they're playing live and that sort of thing. It's like, there was no producing or anything in that. What you heard them playing live is what you got. Like, there was nothing there. It's like they were, like we were just saying before, though, the musicianship was just so there in the 90s with those guys that, I mean, you think about it, you watch all those videos where they're playing live on stage, right? And you got other musicians like Peter Steele from Typo Negative throwing drinks and toilet rolls at them while they're playing, and people jumping on Dimebag while he's playing, jumping on his back or knocking him to the floor, and he's just still chunking away while all this is going on.
Well, there's one video where Dime broke the headstock off one of his guitars.
Yes.
Like the actual headstock, and
he's still just playing.
It still played, so he kept playing it.
Yeah.
And he'd drink a lot too. Like, he was one of those guys. I was talking to Michael Yule about this last night. I'm like, if I have too many drinks, I can still play guitar, but I can't keep singing. My voice is shot. And he was like, well, I can keep singing, but I can't really play guitar. And it made me think of Dime, because in a lot of those home videos, Dime would be smashing the Black Tooth Greens or the Crown Royal, two or three bottles down, still going. He didn't miss a note.
Coming back to 1994 tour, man. I remember halfway through the set, right? Next minute, the stage crew wheel out this whole trolley, and the trolley is absolutely loaded with about 100 beers on there, man.
Yeah.
And Dime just starts throwing these beers out into the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's they show it on the videos too. It was one of their things that they did at the gigs, and they'd flick them and see how far they could throw them and catch these drinks, and they would just put them away, man. Absolutely put them away.
They catch them and they go,
and it's, they weren't full cups or anything. There was just enough in them so they could launch them through the crowd.
Not by the time they got there.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
And it was just insane, man. But I mean, look, guys, anyone listening to this, I just recommend you can download them these days, but just go and have a watch of the Pantera Vulgar videos. It's a sight to see, and it was if you think Jackass was great, mate, I think these guys were almost the pioneers of Jackass almost. Yeah. Just some of the stuff they would do, and, the crazy antics of stage diving and drinking and,
practical jokes.
And just being Dime was oh my God, I would hate to be his practical joke. Nah, no way, no would you ever want to. You'd be the most tired bastard on that tour, I reckon.
But by the time they hit the stage, they were ready to go.
And that's, what? I remember years ago they would talk about that. It was I can't remember his full name, but Cat. Unfortunately, he was one of the guys that was killed the night Dime got killed as well.
Yeah.
And he was one of the crew members for them. And I remember him saying that, you know, when you're with Pantera, it's all fun and games, but on the night they played a gig, there was work to be done, and you did the work.
Yeah,
you worked your ass off.
Yeah,
everyone had a job to do, and they all did their job.
Yeah, no, I second that. I highly recommend checking out the Pantera home videos. There's, I think there's 3 or 4 now.
Yeah, I think did they release the 4th one?
I don't know.
I know there was talks about releasing the 4th one, but I think it come down to Dime's missus of whether she wanted to release it or not.
Yeah, there's also Dime Vision.
That's what I think it was, actually, Dime Vision.
There's one Dime Vision release, possibly 2, and I think that was maybe more from the Damage Plan days after Pantera.
Probably,
I think.
Well, I think that's what, Dime Vision would have been. Yeah. I to be honest with you, I haven't seen it. It's sort of like whenever I see stuff like that, it sort of hits a soft spot for me because, you know, I'm one of those few guys, and I don't want to talk too much about it, man, but I'm one of those guys where I still remember where I was the day that I heard that Dime had been shot, and I broke down in tears. I was just like, you know, no way, no, because you know, everyone knew that there was troubles with Pantera at the time and stuff, but it really just sort of like cemented it in that was the end of Pantera. Yeah, that was the end of Damage Plan too. You know what I mean? That was the end, and then Vinnie Paul announced not long after it that he was never going to play again. Yeah, and then some miraculous reason he formed Hell Yeah with Chad from Mudvayne, and you know, it was good to see Vinnie Paul's legacy live on after that, and you know, Dime's legacy even lived on through Hell Yeah as well. You know, we've got a few songs from Hell Yeah dedicated to Dimebag, such as Thank You. Yeah, I saw them. They supported Black Label Society. Yep. Couldn't even tell you when, but it was just great to see Vinny on drums. But yeah, Dime was he 38? Yeah. I think. Oh, yeah, I couldn't tell you how old he was. I don't know why I'm thinking 38, but I think he was only 38 when he was very young. And I think they pretty recently actually burned that club down, or it got burned down. Yeah, it got demolished. Or demolished. Yeah, it got demolished. And, I remember they were talking about it, like, I remember a lot of guys talking about it when they announced that it was going to be demolished, that club, and they had graffitied a massive rock out the front, and someone wanted to grab the rock and keep hold of it and that, because it was a tribute to Dimebag, pretty much, that rock. And I'd love to know what happened to it. If anyone knows, let Craig know. But yeah, you know, really sad story. Really, it's pretty unbelievable. It really is unbelievable, man. But you know what we've got, man. You know what we've got. We've got these albums here, man, to breathe that legacy still. We can still hear Dimebag every single day of our lives in these recordings, in those videos. That dude has gone down in absolute history. This band, Pantera, has absolutely gone down in history as one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time. Yeah, and, you know, we lost Dime in 2004, I think it was. Yep. And, you know, it's almost 20 years ago, but he's still, you know, much like Hendrix, I guess, he's up there. And Eddie Van Halen, you know, and he won't be moved from that perch. No way. As you said, man, it's Pantera took heavy metal to a new level. Yeah. Let's talk about that song. That was a mad ass
second song on the album. Yeah.
Vulgar Display of Power. And what a song that was.
Drop D tuning.
You think about it, man.
Yeah, and I think this is, you know, it's some of the guys from the band like Phil and Rex. I think on that Revolver interview, that's still one of their favourite songs from the album.
Yeah.
And I think Phil still plays that, like when he plays a Pantera song with one of his bands, Phil Anselmo and the Illegals,
yes.
or Down,
Yep.
which they're not together, or they're not really doing anything.
No, but I remember him talking recently about the Illegals and how when they started rehearsing the Pantera songs, it was really important to Phil, super important that they got those songs right, because, and it's the same to this day, you know what I mean? I guess I've dreamed, I guess a lot of people have dreamed over the years about maybe doing a Pantera tribute band.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know what? The way I look at it, if I could never do just one of their songs justice, don't touch it.
No.
Don't touch it.
No. And, you know, before Vinny passed away, you know, there was often talks about maybe one-off gigs and bringing in Zakk Wylde on guitar.
Yep.
And he probably, I don't think I really wanted to see that, although Zakk would have been the perfect person to do it.
Yes, he's the only one you'd really want to do it, but at the same time, it still just wouldn't fill that void. It'd be the closest guy to fill the void, but it would never fill that void.
Yeah, and it's not to take anything away from Zakk. Like, Zakk and
not
Dime were best buddies, and I really feel sorry for Zakk.
Yeah, for sure.
But some things you just shouldn't do, and to be fair, they didn't do it.
Yeah, it didn't feel right to them, so they left it.
Yeah,
which is, I think personally, it's a great mentality to have.
Yeah.
You know, but a new level, it was just, I remember hearing that song for the first time, man. Just hearing that, what's this? You know, you hear that guitar scratch, Vinnie Paul doing the, you know, drums, and then it just kicks into it. And it's like, wow, it's just like,
and hear those guitars when Dime starts palm muting,
and it's just like,
it almost breaks the speakers.
That's where you get that boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. Again, you channel any rage that you had into that, and then the main verse riff would kick in, and you just lose it even more. And then the chorus would kick in, and it is like a new level. Yeah. And you just pump away at it, and you couldn't stop, even if you wanted to. You couldn't stop. It was just one of those things.
But even those lyrics, I think, summed up what this album and period of time was for Pantera. A new level of confidence and power.
Yeah.
Such power. And that just, I think that summed them up for that period of time. You know, they're coming off Cowboys. They were reaching a new level. They had the confidence because they just toured, you know, and they had shit to prove. Like, they weren't just fucking around.
I remember Phil saying they toured for like 330 something, 30 or 40 days or something straight.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, it wasn't unheard of sort of thing back then. I mean, Metallica toured for like, you know, 3 years straight with the Black Album.
Yeah, but they were pretty well accustomed to touring by then.
Yeah, for sure.
But playing that sort of music, whether it be Metallica or Pantera, that shit wouldn't be easy to play every night.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's not just picking up an acoustic guitar and singing a few songs. That's pretty tiring sort of stuff.
As I said, man, in the end, it's still a job, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still a job, you know. It's what makes it really hard for musicians. They would spend all this time on the road. It means you can't land a career somewhere. You can't go and, you know, do some sort of, you know, picking and packing job or anything like that, because you're on the road for so long, and then you come back to reality and it's like, oh, okay, well, where do I make my money now? If you weren't selling heaps of albums, like, thankfully for Pantera back then, they were selling the albums. Metallica was selling the albums and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, if you look at bands like Typo Negative, for instance, you had Peter Steele. Now, Peter Steele, you know, I'm still jealous to this day that I never got to see Typo Negative tour here in Australia. But Peter Steele hated touring, absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
And even throughout all his time playing with Typo Negative, he still always maintained a job at his local council as a garbo driver, as a garbage truck driver.
Wow.
And it was quite amazing. But how does any band of Pantera's stature do that. So
You couldn't.
a job's a job, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and that was their job is selling albums and putting on shows for people. And, you know, I remember when I saw him in 94, Phil stopped halfway, you know, after about the third or second song. He's like, you know, fuck all these laser shows and shit and stuff like that.
Flying dragons and shit.
We're not about that. It's like, we just want to come here.
Yeah.
We want to play music for you, give you a basic light show and party with you guys.
Yep.
And that's what Pantera were about, man. And nothing's ever going to change.
Well, I was lucky enough to see them in 2000 or 2001.
2001.
Yeah. At Festival Hall again. And now I was 18.
Was that the Great Southern Trendkill? Yeah?
No, it would have been Reinventing the Steel.
Yes, you're right. Actually, it was.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't remember a lot from the show. And I think it's because I was pretty young.
Yeah.
And I think we'd had a few drinks before we went in. I remember.
How could you not?
I remember I dyed my hair black around that time. I don't know what I was thinking, but and we were in the mosh. Somehow we got in the mosh, and I went down, and before I knew it, I was picked back up again. They looked after me.
Man, I have to say, this is a difference between one of those old school gigs to a new gig that you go to these days, right?
Yeah.
You go and see Parkway Drive. Great band, don't get me wrong. I love them, right? You go there, they're aiming those pits as to almost knock people out. Do you know what I mean? They're not... I'm not saying this to be a pussy or anything, right? But they're not safe spaces in those pits. We're back in the Pantera days. If someone fell over or someone got knocked to the ground, you picked them up. You made that space and you picked that person up to make sure they were okay. And then they'd give you the thumbs up and go, yeah, I'm all good, man. And you go, yeah. And you'd pick that person up and you'd send them crowd surfing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sadly, you don't see that stuff these days, man. The old school crowd was just a whole nother world in those sort of pits compared to this day and age.
Yeah.
And look, I apologise. It is a personal opinion, but, you know, I've spoke to plenty of people over the years about this subject, and it's one of those things because I saw that firsthand in Pantera's tours, you know what I mean, where people would get knocked down and everyone would be doing their best to try and push people out of the way so you could pick that person up, you'd make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
And you'd send them off if they weren't okay. I remember I had my little rule, man. If you needed to get out of a pit, you crouch down and you wiggle yourself backwards. You push your bum out and you wiggle backwards, and that's how you would get out of the pit safely.
Well, I was picked up before I even realised that I was down. And I always appreciated that, but that was probably one of the last times I went in a pit. And one of the first. And it was a hell of a first one to be in. But,
you either have a good experience or a bad experience.
Well, it wasn't bad, you know, because I was looked after. But I prefer these days, or, you know, since then, to actually just sit back and watch. I don't need the pit experience.
That's
it's cool to watch, but I don't need that to enjoy the music. And, you know, there's all sorts of different music fans. And that's just me. I prefer to sit back, watch, fret watch, and, you know, just watch my favourite band. But it was just something else. You know, it was such a crazy show that I can't really remember it. And I'm just so glad
you got to see it, man. Well done, man. Not, you know, a lot of people never got to see him, man, and they never will now. You know what I mean? We are, I guess in a nutshell, man, we're really lucky that when you think about it, man, how awesome we, for the short amount of time we're on this planet for. Yeah. We were alive when Dimebag was around, man. Yeah. When Pantera was around. Yeah. And that's something to speak for. Yeah, they were a different animal, and you know, I mean, you just got to watch the videos, but I'm sure if you got to see them, you would sort of second that. And they're not just like any other band, any other heavy metal or rock band. Like they brought something extra, They didn't try to put on a show. They didn't try and impress you. All they did, they were themselves. They didn't have to put on a show.
I'll tell you one of my favourite performances to watch of theirs, and one I go to, when I go down that rabbit hole on a Friday night or a Saturday night having too many drinks, chuck on some Pantera. And one of my favourite things to chuck on is, I think it's like half an hour of footage from Ozfest 2001. And I think it was the last show of the Ozfest, of that tour. And, Phil's wasted. No doubt the rest of them are too, but you can tell Phil is. And it's not the full Pantera performance. I'm sure it's out there to get somewhere. It's like half an hour, maybe 40 minutes of footage. Like Yesterday Don't Mean Shit, Cowboys, Primal Concrete Sledge.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to watch. It's just like, these guys are a different fucking animal.
They really are, man. They really are. And it's something you could always look forward to, you know what I mean?
And it was really, I always liked the darkness of grunge and stuff like that. And Pantera had that. It wasn't sort of a manufactured darkness, I'm singing about the devil and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they had this thing, and Phil looked fucked up, but it added to the that darkness aesthetic of what they were doing. And had his long hair and
the mohawk. Did he have the mohawk at the time, or
no? I don't think it was a mohawk.
No, that was the Cowboys era, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like reinventing the steel. It's like Revolution Is My Name. Yeah. Like, he had that sort of long hair.
What a kick-ass riff, huh?
Oh, man. That song is a riff fest. But yeah, I always really loved that Ozfest 2001 performance. So go and check that out if you haven't seen that.
Just check out any Pantera show.
Yeah.
Oh, man, if we're going to talk about shows, you can't go past Monsters of Rock, Donington.
Oh, yes, I had that on my list here. Let me scroll back up.
That was insane. Like, people died at that gig, man.
Did they?
Yeah, people died at that gig. But it wasn't from being crushed and stuff like that. It was more from the brutality of police and stuff, whacking people with batons because they hadn't seen anything of a sort either. It was just, again, a way to just release yourself, just channel that anger.
And the Russians wouldn't have been used to
not at all.
That. So, yeah, I think after being in the studio for 2 months, this is during the recording of Vulgar, so it hadn't come out yet. Pantera were invited to open for Metallica and AC/DC at the 1991 Monsters of Rock.
What a gig.
Free concert in Moscow on September 28, 1991. The band then returned to the studio after that to sort of finish Vulgar. Vinny said the crowd treated us like Led Zeppelin, even though most of them had never heard us. And yeah, you just watch. I think, didn't they put that on a
New Level film clip? If you watch the New Level film clip, that whole film clip is based at Donington.
But they did a bit of a. Oh, you said Donington. Or did you say Monsters of Rock?
Monsters of Rock.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Is that Donington?
No, that's Germany, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, Monsters of Rock is Russia.
Yeah, Monsters of Rock was the one that was the one that was really screwed up, man.
Where they played Domination.
Yeah, which is great.
Cowboys.
They actually recorded that live.
Part of that, they did a little documentary on that. It must be on one of the home videos.
Yeah, it is.
Where didn't they sleep in a little tent?
A tent.
Yeah. And they had Phil was eating gummy bears for food.
And stuff. And I remember Vinny going, that's Vinny's drumsticks over there. Don't get too close to him.
That's right. That's all right. Yeah, they took like a little tour of their fucking sleeping tent.
Yeah, and all they had to eat was KFC or McDonald's.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it must be on the...
It's on the videos, the Vulgar videos. But it really was like, you just look at the footage of that and it really was a sight to see. I mean, if you think of the biggest crowd you've ever seen, just times it by 10.
Yeah, and I think Kirk Hammett said that too. Like, you look out and you think you can see the end of the crowd, but you can't.
Yep.
And yeah, you see the Russian police sort of
Just
hitting people with batons.
Rubber batons, man, just cracking them.
But you get bands like Metallica, like they were in their peak then, live.
Yeah, yep.
And new bands like Pantera coming out, you know, that had something to prove. And you watch the footage of either one of those bands and it's fucking incredible. Especially Domination, I think, stands out for me. You know, Dime's solo and stuff like that. Just the way he... Oh, man.
It's it's funny. I know a lot of people who know Pantera and who are listening to this are going to be like, they're going to know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for those new people who've probably, let's just say, have never heard of Pantera, or have probably heard of them but never really gotten into them, it's just honestly, do yourself a favour. Just go and get Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power, and even if you listen to it just one time, do yourself that favour and just listen to the album just once.
Yeah.
And I think you might understand exactly where we're coming from with their playing, the rawness of the sound and everything that Pantera was.
Well, they said Cowboys was sort of the debut album for like the power groove or the groove metal thing, but I don't know. I think personally, I think it was Vulgar, but I guess
I reckon I believe, and again, personal opinion, but I think Cowboys from Hell was a segue.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It was a segue to Vulgar Display of Power. It set a new tone, and I went, you know what? This actually really works for us because, you know, when you hear Cowboys from Hell, that album is really completely different to what they had done previously. And it's like, I think it's almost like they were just testing new waters.
Yeah.
And it really worked for them. And I think from there, it's like they caught a wave. And the best part about Pantera, man, they rode the wave to the fullest extent. As you said, man, you had the Cowboys from Hell, these dudes that are just reckless and love playing music and they're into what they're doing, to Vulgar Display of Power, where they really show what they're all about with their raw aggression and how vulgar they can be, to Far Beyond Driven. When you think of that, Far Beyond Driven, it's like these guys are driven to the core, but we're going further than that.
Yeah.
To, you know, the Great Southern Trendkill, which almost, when you say that slowly, man, the Great Southern Trendkill, it's like, they set the tone, man. They set that tone for that Southern style metal, man.
So to me, like, I don't think this is something that's often discussed. It's like, you know, people often discuss like grunge came from a different part of America than like glam. Glam was LA. Yep. Grunge was Seattle. But Pantera was Texas. Yeah. And I don't know if that's discussed very often. Maybe that had something to do with it. They came from a different part of America. Not like they were the first band to ever come or base themselves in Texas, but you know, a lot of Metallica was San Francisco.
Yeah, you had your bass thrash metal and stuff from San Fran, and
Pantera cut their teeth in Texas, you know, on the live scene. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
These guys worked their way to where they got. You got to remember, this didn't happen overnight for Pantera.
No, not at all. No.
You know, these guys formed in the early 80s like every other band did.
Yeah.
And worked their way up and really didn't hit it big time until after Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until they really didn't get the big notoriety until, you know, towards the end of Vulgar Display of Power, just before
Far Beyond
Driven come out. And as I said, as I was talking to you through the week, and I said, you know, Vulgar Display of Power never had an actual tour. Their first tour was Far Beyond Driven.
Yeah. So for Vulgar, they toured with Soundgarden, Skid Row, I think White Zombie, Megadeth in Europe, I think.
all the American greats. I mean, I remember hearing about the Pantera Metallica tour, and I was like, oh my God, how good would that be if they come down here for that?
Yeah.
That would have been absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, then you got Walk, the riff. You got the riff, the video, you know, the ultimate sort of heavy metal anthem, really. And it was actually the fourth single from the album. So you had Mouth for War.
The third. So it had Mouth for War, A New Level.
Yeah.
And it finished off with that, Your Size.
Yeah.
And then it was Walk after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just like that one riff, that one down tune. Like, I don't even know what tuning it was in. It was like,
it's drop D, I think.
Drop D.
Yeah.
But as I said, drop D, but even a little bit more than that D just to get that dime tone. It was just like, I remember, because back in the day when we were trying to learn that, it was like, it was just on that first fret, just bending down.
Just a little bit.
We were discussing it yesterday going, it's almost like when you play it, you almost have to, when you hit that first note, you almost have to have it already bent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, we didn't have Google back then. We didn't have Ultimate Guitar back then. So you had to figure out these songs for yourself, or if you were lucky, a mate might have had a tab that he was able to get somehow or anything. And I remember playing it in D and going from the second fret to the first fret, going dun 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 and then, so it was almost like a triplet instead of just the bend on that first fret, trying to get the tone out. It worked, but it you know, to find out in this day and age, with you never actually did it. It was all just done on that first fret, but it's such a powerful riff, just with his tone all together, with those mids right out there, just hearing that.
And that's how the song starts with the drum. And
insane.
It's like, and that was Dime's playing as well. Like, he did those fucked up little bends in a lot of his solos and stuff. And that was a feel thing. You know, he didn't like straight sounding patterns, I guess. You know, he fucked with it. He chucked an odd note in there or an odd bend just to fuck with it and make it his own.
Walk is one of my all-time favorite guitar solos.
Oh yeah.
Because when he's playing that solo and he does those slides where he's like, and it was like, wow, man, you never hear a guitarist do.
Yeah.
It was really like almost like the only other guitarist I can compare at the time doing weird stuff like that was Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, who would, you know, play around with his frets and his pickups and stuff. And
yeah, but he had effects. I mean, not to take anything away from him, but he used a lot of effects pedals. I guess Dime used a few too, to be fair.
Yeah, of course, but you know, but just it was more about his hand techniques and the solo from Walk was just insane. And even to this day, it's like you go to a pub or a club or wherever you are, man, tell me, 38 years old, you still hear Walk, you still lose your shit, don't you?
Yeah.
It's just one of those songs.
Yeah, and the video, it's like, it's a heavy metal anthem.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yep.
But to be honest, like, I sort of skip over this song when it comes on now.
Yep.
Just fit like an Enter Sandman or a Sweet Child of Mine.
Overplayed?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's like people who aren't Pantera fans like Walk. So it's kind of been, you know, I don't want to sound like a bastard, but it's been poisoned in that sort of.
Just as you said, it's like Number of the Beast, Enter Sandman.
But it doesn't take anything away from what the song was. It turned into that.
As you said, man, they're anthems, and anthems get boring after a while.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, anthems get boring after a while.
But if you're there live, like that song, or even if you watch it live, you know, it goes off.
Yep.
And I don't know if this means anything to you as a drummer, the time signature of the riff is 12/8. What does that mean? Can you tell?
So I was just playing it in my head now.
Yeah. 12/8.
12/8.
Yeah.
12/8.
Yeah.
That would almost still make it a 4/4 song.
What? Yeah, it doesn't sound too far.
I think when 12/8, it sounds like a complicated riff, but
It's probably not.
But in hindsight, it really isn't, because it still breaks down into fours.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, I don't mean it's simple to play. Like, it is the first part, but if you play the tail end of that riff,
yeah,
good luck.
Oh, the end of it, I get it, but it's still not I mean, it's one of those songs. It's just all feel, man. It's all feel.
But the solo, I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to fault any Dimebag solo, really, but
I'd love to just be able to play just one solo of Dimebag's, just one.
Have you heard the Avenged Sevenfold cover of this song, of Walk? That was on one of their albums.
Walk. I know they did a cover of, I think it was, they've done a few Pantera covers now. I can't remember the one that I heard, but
they had the balls to chuck it on the end of one of their albums.
Wow.
And I thought, that's ballsy. And look, they did it.
They did it justice.
Yeah.
I'll have to go. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
But and look, let's move to the next song, the madness of fucking Hostile.
Yeah.
Wow. If that just didn't punch you in the teeth, nothing else would. It's like just start, I would just feel just going, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just kicking into it, just so fast and just in your face, and it's just like, and again, it's like Dom's guitar work in that song is just amazing. Like, it's hard to even just try and replicate the sound of the chorus. Yeah,
I think they hit a bit of the thrash metal thing in this song.
Yes,
I think,
definitely.
with
definitely
the
had the thrash in there, and like that little riff is like,
yeah. Oh man,
it's incredible song. Really short song. It's one of their shortest songs they ever done, I think.
It's like 2 minutes something.
Yeah,
I think.
2 minutes something, and it's just a grab you by the throat and punch you in the face song. It's like, wake up, this is Pantera, mothers.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of my song at the moment, fucking Hostile. I'm pretty hostile to a lot of things going on.
Yep.
But, I mean, we should mention as well, like, Phil's vocal style from Cowboys to Vulgar. Like, on Cowboys, I guess he had more of the Rob Halford.
And that's where I was saying before that I believe that the Cowboys from Hell was a transition from the power metal to what they were doing in the end of days.
Yeah.
Is, because he had that lovely singing tone in Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah.
And, don't get us wrong, he still had some really good voices, and you can hear that in the song Hollow at the very end of the last song of the track, where he's got a really nice ballad in there, and you can still hear his nice, clean singing tones. But, this album is what shaped Pantera hands down. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the high notes, like in Cemetery Gates and stuff like that, you didn't hear that from Vulgar onwards, really.
No, you really didn't.
It was all growl.
Yeah, it was all growls, and and as you know, with Great Southern Trendkill, he got Seth to do the scream at the start of Suicide Note. Who was Seth from? I can't remember what band Seth was from.
Is that the same as the middle of War Nerve? Like the big high screams?
Yeah, I think so. It's not that Phil couldn't do them at all.
Yeah.
I think it was more about having guests playing on the albums and stuff.
Okay.
But after fucking Hostile, man, there was This Love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which was another, I don't know. It was like that. A power ballad, but not a power ballad.
Yeah.
I got a funny story with this, man.
Go for it.
This Love, I loved it. It's a great song, as you know. It's a nice, slow, sort of lovey-dovey song sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And, the chorus was really punchy and stuff. But the verses were real nice and lovey-dovey and stuff. So I remember I used to dedicate this song to my ex. one of my exes, and I used to sing it to her, and then I found out that it was actually about a prostitute.
Which the video sort of hinted at.
Yeah, but I, being a stupid teenager, I never got that hint. You know what I mean? It was just really, really funny. You know what I mean? But it's a great song. It's like, a lovely power ballad. You hear Phil's nice vocals in that too. Yeah. And you hear actual Dimebag singing in this song for the first time.
Oh, really?
Too, yeah. So he's doing love thing, love child, love die. So it's it's a combination of him and Phil on doing the vocals for that. And when playing it live, it was always Dime and Phil singing it, or him and Rex, and Dime and Rex doing the alternate vocals there.
Isn't there a clip? It could be on the home videos again of Dime singing "Seek and Destroy"
yes.
by Metallica.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was a bit of a singer.
Yeah. He had a good voice on him.
Yeah.
Really good voice on him. Actually, it's just. But you know what I hated about Dime? He was just one of those natural, talented musicians.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. You know what I mean? We spend years honing our craft and stuff, trying to get better and better. And this guy was like bloody natural, man. This guy had won how many guitar competitions
when he was younger,
by the age of 16. That I remember talking about this, and this was all just riff-raff at the time, but the talk of he'd been banned from playing in any guitar competitions because he just friggin' won them all.
That's pretty important. I mean, I don't remember where I read that actually, but he won all these guitar competitions as a teenager. Yep. He grew up in Texas, I think.
Yeah.
So it must have been something local. Yeah. And they ended up banning him because he kept winning.
There was no one who could just how insane, you know what I mean? Here we are. I've been playing, even though I'm a drummer, you know what I mean? I've been dabbling guitar for 15 years now, and I still can't even play a single song from start to finish. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just incredible. It's insane that. What some musicians have the intelligence and that power in their head to just be able to do without thinking, without even thinking about it.
Well, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I've got the Guitar World Dime tribute behind Glenn here, and I've also got the Dime replica guitar that I picked up somewhere.
The good old Dime Bolt.
As a tribute, yeah. I almost brought... Before I got the Schecter guitar, I almost brought a Dime Dean guitar because they were shipping a few to Australia.
That's right. I saw that you could pre-order them.
Yeah, and I thought,
I saw that. It was tempting for myself as well. Not that as I said, not that I play guitar well, but it's just like just to have one, man. Just to have one of those razors or the lightning bolt or the what was his other one? The Dime Slime.
Yeah, and. They weren't that expensive like you would expect.
Yeah, it was only, I think they were only about $1,600 or something.
Yeah. Whereas like a Slash, I think the new Slash 4 guitar, I think, is available. It's like $5,000. It's like, I'm not going to. Yeah. But, so this Love, I mean, that's got one of my favourite Dime riffs in the middle of that song, like that sort of master of puppetry sort of riff.
Are you talking about the solo or?
No, before the solo. I think it's after the second chorus, and it jumps into this riff before it does that bit. No more head trips. Just before that, it's like a bit of a master of puppetry sort of riff.
It's like. That was the breakdown before breakdowns were a thing when you think about it.
There's so much to this song, and I wrote down a quote here that Phil said, "I wanted to sing the truth, as ugly as it was a lot of the time," he said. In songs like Hollow and This Love, I wrote about losing people, and I've had healthy doses of it from early in life. Had a few friends commit suicide. So I think this sort of tied in with Hollow, basically about losing people. So something like This Love is not a specific song about any one of them. It's a collective. I think even then, when I was writing it in 1992, I think that people were going to take the lyrics and make them their own. I tried to...
Like we were talking about before with interpretation.
I tried to make it a heart-throbbing gut-wrencher for everyone to relate to. Yeah. So, you know, you make it your own, and he obviously wrote it from a point of view, but not everyone's going to relate to that, but they can hear, you know, the emotion and what he's singing about. And Guitar World ranked this song as number 5 on their top 25 list of Pantera songs.
Wow, that's...
And the video was directed by Kevin Kerslake. So, yeah.
It's pretty good film. I remember that one.
Yeah.
As you said, the video really taps onto sort of like prostitution and you know, I guess you see, I know, not from first-hand experience, but a mate of mine years ago sold his house. He went through a divorce and sold his house and stuff, and he all the money he got from it, he ended up going to a strip club every single night and spending this money to the point where he honestly believed that this stripper was his girlfriend. And to be honest with you, man, she bled him dry. Bled him dry to the point where he thought that she was his girlfriend, and it was never the case, you know. She was always who she was, and, you know, that's their job. And, but again, interpretation, man. As I said, I interpreted that as being a love song for my girlfriend, you know?
Yeah.
But each to their own, really, when you think about it.
It's a big song, though. Like, there's a lot of different parts to it.
That.
And even Dime's solo, like, taking out the song, I reckon
lots of bends and stuff in that.
Yeah, it's fucking brilliant, you know. There's a lot in that song, like in that, I think it's like 6 minutes or maybe a bit longer.
I think it was 5 minutes 50, I think.
There's a lot in that. And it's probably one of the last songs that sort of Phil was singing like that.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, that and Hollow, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember after, the only time, next song you heard Phil really singing was Far Beyond Drill when they covered Planet Caravan.
Oh, yeah.
But even then, his vocals had so many effects stretched on it. You know, they just really wanted to replicate, you know, Planet Caravan in a sense.
And then Suicide Note Part 1 on 2. Oh, sorry, on Tranquil.
Yeah. But it was almost just like an intro sort of thing, really, wasn't it? You couldn't, like, you can know, yeah, it was a song, but it wasn't, it was more like just an interlude to Suicide Note Part 2.
Yeah.
Because as we know, that was one of their darkest eras of their life, you know.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, that in Suicide Note, it was inspired from Phil because he actually died from a heroin dose and actually got brought back to life.
It was good, because there's not a lot of information out there about that. And I remember seeing one interview with Phil, again, while I had a few drinks, so I can't remember who it was from, but he was pretty candid about things. And I'll have to look that up now because, there's not a lot out there about that period of time for Phil especially, because I think he was in the darkest because of his back pain, wasn't it?
That's right, He had a lot of back pain. There was a lot of issues with Pantera because he wanted to branch off and do stuff with Superjoint Ritual.
Yeah.
And it was almost the, you know, don't quote me on this, but it was almost like the beginning of the end of Pantera around that time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess in a nutshell, we were lucky to even get a tour from Pantera at the time because, you know, that's when they were really having a lot of major issues and stuff, you know, once that album was released and stuff. And, you know, there was, I guess, a bit of unsurety whether they would even tour again.
Yeah.
But, you know, good for us. They pulled their shit together, man. They pulled their shit together and they ended up touring again. We got to see them again.
Do you know if they toured in, what was it, 96 for Tranquil? Like, did they tour Australia?
We got them in 97.
97, yeah.
97 at the Glass House.
Glass House.
The Glass House.
Yeah, right.
Which is I remember that was another really good gig because, again, like any Pantera gig, being a massive Pantera fan that I am, man, it's like every gig that I went to and I saw Pantera, I got there at 7:30 in the morning and just lined up all day waiting for the doors to open. And, you know, I remember at the Glass House gig, halfway in the middle of the day, Big Val come out.
Oh, Big Val.
Big Val.
Oh, he died, didn't he?
Yeah, he was another one that was killed the same night that Dimebag and Cat were killed, man. Yeah.
Really?
He was shot as well. So,
fuck.
Yeah, he come out and had a good chat to us and stuff, man. And I'll never forget that, you know what I mean? And for those guys listening again, if you watch the Pantera videos, you see a good whole 10, 15 minutes of Big Val that they do. And he was Pantera's bodyguard. Pretty much, he was head of security for Pantera. So, and ultimately he paid with his life for trying to protect them. So,
I remember that scene in the home videos. I don't remember which, you know, whether it was 1, 2, or 3 or whatever they labelled them as, but that cake eating contest.
Yes.
Where he had to eat that whole cake and he went for it.
Yeah.
He gave it a good crack and then...
he was, put it his way, he was hurting in the end.
Whoa, Big Val! Oh, man, they put him through hell.
I tell you what, man, after this chat today, I'm going to go home tonight. I'm going to watch these videos again. It's insane.
So
they have these little spin-off things in there and, you know, it's not just all about music for these videos. They'll throw a video in every now and then, but it's more about just their antics and stuff. And it was just insane. You get cameos from Type O Negative and Skid Row and Metallica and all their tours.
That Kiss song that I don't know who.
Cat Scratch Fever.
Yeah, most of the Skid Row band and Phil might have been. I don't know if Dime was out there. They played like a Kiss song. Yeah. On that tour, and that would have been the Vulgar, the Vulgar era.
Well, again, a lot of people wouldn't know this, but the Abbotts were massive fans of Kiss. They were like that's who they idolised is Kiss, and there's a massive thing online about not online but on the videos and that where they actually got to meet Gene Simmons and the whole Kiss band and stuff. And they actually got their tattoos on them, so you actually see them getting the tattoos of Ace Frehley and stuff on their chest and their arms and back and massive. It's amazing when you sit there and go, we idolise Pantera, and then you look at those guys and they idolise Kiss, and it's like that's just amazing where people's music careers start off.
Well, it always starts from idolising someone else, and that's why we're no different, really. And I think it's in Dime Vision that Dime shows off these pickups in his guitar that like smoking pickups. Pretty sure it's Dime Vision, like Ace Frehley had on his guitar.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He jumps out of the bus, like the tour bus, and he's like got these smoking pickups. And I think it was all due to Ace Frehley. And at the end of the day, we're all just fanboys of someone else, aren't we?
That's right. Yeah. That's what music is, man. It's what music is.
He didn't sound like Kiss, he took it 20 levels above. And but at the end of the day, Kiss and Eddie Van Halen, I think Randy Rhoads as well.
Yep. Randy Rhoads.
Were his probably main influences. And
definitely.
He just took it a bit further. So after what we're up to, This Love, we got Rise.
Rise. No, that
dun, dun, Rise. Dun, dun,
Rise. Dun, Rise.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So, it's not one of my favourites off the
No,
album,
you know what? It's like if every band has one, right? When they write an album, they've got a what do you call it? A filler.
Yeah, and sometimes that's not fair to label it as that.
No, it's not.
But compared to some of the other songs,
Compared to some of the other songs, a lot of people would see Rise as a filler, but it's got a really good groove to it, which is, you know, that's what Pantera's known for. Their groove metal. It's like, you know, and
the solo, man, like the solos kick ass.
Yeah.
And even Phil's vocals are really good on this song. Because, I was listening to it in the last couple of days and I'm like, this is one of those filler songs. But then, I'm listening a bit more. I'm like, there's more to it than that. It's not fair to label it as that. But compared to fucking Hostile and A New Level, unfortunately it falls in that category, I think. Yeah. But it's still a good song.
And look, to be honest with you, where they've put it in the album, it really fits well.
Yeah.
It really fits well. It comes in after This Love. You just had this epic song, this power ballad, sort of like with a chunky verse and, this really hardcore breakdown at the end. And then, Rise fits in there to just bring that tempo back up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it really fit well. It's a really good chorus, really good solo in it. Like, I mean, any solo, you can't. What am I talking about? Shut up, Glenn. But you know what I mean. Any solo Don does is a masterpiece. But then after Rise, you get to what is it? No Gooder. Attack the Radical.
Yeah.
And that just comes in with Vinnie Paul's, toms and Dimebag's guitar just going. It's like, and it's just this awesome, powerful riff.
Yeah.
And then it breaks down to sort of like a half time. I've trampled along that road that you think that you own. You have that smart ass attitude.
It's time to stop the fiction.
And it's a really good song because you're getting to hear Phil's vocals and he's talking a lot in that song as well. It's almost like he's just talking rather than singing in that song.
And I think I heard a lot of that later on in like Slipknot and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. Corey Taylor does a lot of that.
Yeah. And, Phil deserves big props. Like,
damn, yeah.
He probably started as like a Rob Halford sort of singer, but he took it further than that. And,
that's what I love. Towards the end, from like Vulgar onwards, you hear Phil in his natural sort of like tone, his natural, where he's the most comfortable, I would say. He's not trying to
emulate someone else.
Anything or anyone else. He's Phil. And I think that's what makes any great singer great, is they're just using their natural voice. They're not trying to emulate anyone. Like when you think of people like, let's say, I know you're not a big fan, but Eddie Vedder. Eddie Vedder has that 90s tone, you know what I mean? That big 90s sort of like Darius Ruckus from Hootie and the Blowfish. They had that 90s sound, just let her cry.
And then Creed comes along.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That sort of sound. They're all trying to emulate a voice there. Yeah. But Phil never done that. Phil was just like, fuck this shit. This is me.
Yeah.
You go to a party and it'd be a dull party and shit, and you put some Pantera on, all of a sudden it just becomes lively.
Well, back in my 20s,
a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. We'd just get together naturally every weekend and have a drink. If we didn't have a gig or something, we'd get together, and towards the end of the night, you'd gravitate to the TV and chuck on the Pantera videos. Like you just.
It's what you did, wasn't it?
It's what you did.
It's just.
Or Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Chappelle Show. Yeah. Or both, But the Pantera videos just always hit the mark. And
I guess when you say that, one of the good things about putting on the videos is you get the whole thing of Pantera. You get the whole thing. You know what I mean? You get to listen to Pantera because they're obviously playing music throughout the whole videos and stuff like that. But then, you're seeing all the antics of Pantera and it just works. So if you were to, sitting there having a party and stuff, and it started getting dull, let's just chuck the videos on, or we'll chuck on a Pantera album, and all of a sudden, your party just started going again. And we're going to keep referencing this, guys. It went to a new level.
Yeah. It did. Yeah, it's the perfect thing to chuck on, and then it branched out into different things, but it usually probably started with Pantera.
Yeah, always, man. It was like, it was just, I can't believe it, man. You sit there and you're thinking, it's like Pantera were at the beginning of a new era of music. They really were. You know what I mean? Metallica started getting hate for the Black Album because they went commercial.
Even from the Pantera guys, actually. From Vinny, I think, said something about it, yeah.
And then you get Pantera going the opposite end and bring out this raw crunchiness of a band just no one had ever heard of before. And a lot of, I remember in the video that I was watching the other day of them saying people like Judas Priest and that were going, who are these Pantera guys? What are they doing? Because this is a whole new, it's a new breed of metal.
Yeah.
That's a new breed.
Well, I read, I can't remember if it was the Tommy Lee book or the Dirt, the Tommy Lee chapter, but he said, like, after Dr. Feelgood, like, and Dr. Feelgood in 89, that inspired Metallica for the Black Album.
Yep.
In terms of, I think, guitar tone and a few other things. So, and Tommy's like, all these fucking heavy bands are coming out, like Pantera, and they're coming out with this heavy shit, and we wanted to get into that. And that's why they sort of got rid of Vince, I think, for that brief period,
Vince
and brought
Neil,
in John Corabi. And they sounded a bit heavier, and they released that Motley Crue self-titled album with John Corabi in 1994, which was different to the usual Motley sounding album, and I guess it was a bit heavier. So Tommy had recognised that new bands like Pantera were coming out, and
you had to adapt and change, and I think a lot of bands recognise that too, because you had your hair metal in the 80s and stuff, and you get your few bands that were able to survive through that era, such as Judas Priest, because they were such a huge band that they could keep going along with that. But a lot of bands didn't survive that 80s hair stuff as well, you know what I mean, that hair metal.
And it was probably a lot of the copycat bands, like I was saying before, like with the lead guitarist that sort of sounded like Eddie Van Halen or something like that,
One of the, I remember in grade 5 or 6 I was in, and at my school, you were either a Poison fan or you were a Motley Crue fan. But because of the way the way that politics worked at school, you couldn't be both. You're either a Poison fan or you're a Motley Crue fan. For me, I was a Poison fan.
Oh, really?
I was a Poison fan. I loved Poison. And I guess that's one of the things that got me into metal as well.
Yeah.
And, to this day, I still love Poison. Don't get me wrong. They had some amazing albums, Flesh and Blood and Open Up and Say Ah. And that was some great albums. But I think, in hindsight, Poison didn't do much after Flesh and Blood. I think they might have released one album after that. I don't know. I don't even know, to be honest, because I moved on so quickly.
Yeah, they became irrelevant pretty quickly.
Yeah, really quickly, because that's what I was saying about how hair metal bands just sort of died out really quickly.
Yeah. And
Motley Crue, I guess, sort of like went to that next level sort of thing, but kept they were able to keep that image still, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Feelgood was their biggest album, and still to this day, and that was like a 1989 album. But somehow they've sort of kept themselves above most other glam rock bands.
Yep, most definitely.
And
man.
I think they were a bit above that anyway. Like, they were in that region, but they were a little bit more than like a Warrant or a Poison or something like that. I mean, you listen to Generation Swine that came out in 95 or 96.
I was just listening to your
fucking great album.
last podcast where you briefly spoke about that album.
Oh, yeah. That was a great album, and it's relatively unknown. And funnily enough, I think it was my first Motley album that I brought.
Yeah, you were saying that it was your first one that you bought.
Yeah, I had Dr. Feelgood on tape. I borrowed it from a friend.
That's right, people. Cassettes did exist.
Cassette tape. And the timeline's a bit funny, but for some reason I'd gone out and somehow I got Generation Swine, and that's still a great sounding album to this day, you know. And I think John Corabi was meant to sing on it, but somewhere in there they got Vince back and he sang on it.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. But Motley, man, it's just don't get me wrong. I remember we went on a school hike one day, and all the grade 5s and 6s were all walking in a line together. And we're all singing Dr. Feelgood as we were walking. And I just remember it. It was amazing. We were singing that. We were singing Poison by Alice Cooper. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was such a really great day. And it's just, that's the power of some songs, you know what I mean? They stick to you like it was, like they come out yesterday. And that's this album to a T, man. It's like, it's an album you can always fall back on.
Well, when you were talking about Poison earlier, that made me think back to my time when I first discovered Alice Cooper Poison, the video. But at that time, I had like a cassette tape player, like a double deck thing, and it was yellow.
The boombox? Did you have the boombox?
I don't know if it was a boombox.
The Sanyo boombox or Sony?
I don't know, but it was like a double cassette thing. It was yellow, and I think I had the cassette for Poison, and I was obsessed with that song. And then I sort of rediscovered it years later again, and I'm like, oh fuck, it took me straight back to that time for
Poison,
the little part I remembered.
Poison had some exceptional songs, man. They really did. I mean, Poison, the Alice Cooper song. Oh, yes. Yeah,
but I got into Poison, the band, later. But all that stuff, like, it doesn't, you know, we don't need to compare it to each and the other. Like, it's all part of a beautiful period of time.
That's exactly, you know, again, mate, we are so lucky we were alive during this period of time. You know, it's funny, you know, if you ever have kids down the track and stuff, and then you have grandkids, and you're going to be like, oh, Motley Crue, that's grandpa music, or, you know. It's like you hear Nickelback these days, and Linkin Park being referred to as dad rock.
Well, see, a lot of that shit's on Gold 104 now.
Yeah, I heard.
Anyone listening overseas, that's like the, it's called Gold 104, you know, so that's the old stuff. And like Nirvana's on there, Bon Jovi.
I heard Limp Bizkit on there.
No shit.
And I was just like, okay, I know I'm old now. Because I remember back in the day when my dad used to listen, it was like Gold 104, the best of the 50s and 60s. And it's like, and now they're playing like 80s and 90s on there.
Yeah.
I was like, wow,
man. That's scary. Well, you know, I recently did a Meatloaf tribute episode.
Yes.
And
I had to listen to that one too.
Oh, yeah. You know, like, even that stuff, like, that's classic. And I remember being a young teenager waking up to what was that song? I'd Do Anything for Love.
Yes.
And the video. When video hits, you know, like, the first thing I do when I wake up is flick on the TV, and it'd be video hits on a weekend.
If you were lucky, you'd get up at 6 and watch Rage, the top 10 of Rage at 6 o'clock.
Wasn't very often, but
of course, because it was a weekend. And then after Rage at 7 o'clock, video hits.
And, you know, number one for a while there was I'd Do Anything for Love. And,
that's right, yep.
Again, listening to that song, it took me back to that. And that's the beautiful thing about music and videos, I guess. And
they're great videos have always been great promotional tools, I believe. It's just unfortunate the videos cost so much to make, but they are really great promotional tools because, again, with that interpretation, it helps people.
The visual.
Give you the visual of the song and the power of the songs. I mean, you think of, one of the most weird and tripped out videos that I can ever think of, Black Hole Sun.
Yeah.
The video of that was just like, this is some weird ass video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always remember the knife in that.
Yeah. And that's probably one of their best videos.
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest songs. So whether that's ties together or not, I don't know. But it was a great video and it was a classic.
But look, coming back to Pantera and stuff, man, it's like, I know we went off on a tangent and stuff there, but Pantera have had some exceptional videos too. When you think of like, Cemetery Gates, Mouth for War, A New Level, even Walk had a video which was just a live video, but it was still a video. It really grabbed, and I always remember it at the end of the solo there, and it comes back into the and it's just Phil just standing in this green limelight sort of thing, and it's a really, really powerful video. And they're just great tools for bands to have these days. So I always still recommend any band to have a video. I done percussion and played percussion in a band called Soul Dusk, which are out still at the moment, and they are a black metal folk band, and I recorded on their album, and we did a promo video for one of the songs there. Now, I'm not in that video clip at all, but it just really, it speaks to you. The video clip it's really witchy and really witchcrafty and stuff like that, and it just really, really spoke words without saying anything, if that makes sense. So, again, just videos, if you ever get a chance to just sit there and watch videos, guys, it's another amazing tool. If you ever really want to get into a band, just watch videos, get into them, and if even be, stuff the videos, go and watch them play live. If you can watch someone play live, it doesn't take much these days, you know what I mean? You get some guys that'll be playing live for nearly 20 years and they get nowhere, and they still love it, and they still pour their heart and soul into it. And then you'll get some people. So I remember playing a gig years ago with Tash Sultana at Grumpy's, and this was with Yuli.
I was there too, wasn't I?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were there when we played with Tash Sultana.
Yeah.
Could you imagine sharing a stage with Tash Sultana now?
Yeah,
but I remember
that.
saying that night. I'm like, this chick is amazing. She's going to go places.
Yeah.
And look where she is today. She, a couple of years ago, she got number one on Triple J's Hot 100, Top 100. So it's amazing. You ever get a chance to go and see live music, guys, go and do it. And let's be honest, Australia needs it more than ever right now.
Yeah.
We really do need it more than ever. You need to understand, people have honed their crafts. They've put their heart and soul into playing music. And, because of this whole COVID scenario, it's just been ripped out from underneath them. It's really unfortunate. So if you want a future with live music, the best thing you can do now is go out and just see a live band, whether it's a cover band, an original band, a solo artist, whatever. Just go out there, go and buy a ticket to a live show, buy some, merchandise, buy their album. Even if you don't buy their album, stream it. Streaming is becoming a huge thing now. Back in the day, everyone was like, oh, we don't earn money from streaming. And it's true, you might not earn much from streaming, but you'd know this yourself, Craig. It's all about how many clicks you're getting now. You know what I mean? And the more clicks you're getting, the better it is for the artist still. They're still getting their name out. But the best thing you can do is go and see them, go and buy their merchandise. That's the best thing you can do if you really want to support a local artist.
Yeah, agreed. And, I played my first live gig last night for probably since 6, maybe 8 months ago, and because of all this, I was pretty rusty, and
that sounds like a song title, mate.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit rusty.
I'm a little bit rusty, and it was. I had to kick myself to actually realise that I was standing in front of a microphone with people watching, and it was. It was pretty weird, and generally I'm a pretty shy person, so I have to play regular gigs to shake that anxiety off. And last night I felt it, almost 100%, and it was just purely the fact that I haven't played live gigs for a while, and
well. They say, man, most regular people would say it's hard, but any streetwise son of a bitch knows, don't fuck with this.
Yes. Have we done that song yet? What are we up to?
Well, I think we touched on it before. No Good, Attack the Radical, which is a brilliant track, guys. It's a really great song. It's got a really fat sort of really awesome riff at the start, and Phil's vocals in that are just unbelievable, and has a nice little breakdown towards the sort of like 3/4 of the way through, and then it just kicks back into it again, and really good lyrics to it as well. But then I honestly wouldn't call that song a filler. It was just it's one of if that song wasn't on there. Vulgar wouldn't be Vulgar without that song, I reckon. They've put it. I honestly don't say this lightly, man. The way they've structured the track listing on this just works. It really just works.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what I just stuffed up, man, because I was talking about regular people then.
Yeah.
Not No Good, Attack the Radical.
Okay. Yeah, I get a few of those songs mixed up in the middle there too. And and I think Regular People has got one of my favourite riffs. Yeah. But I get a few of those in the middle there mixed up too for some reason. So
yeah, but No Good's still a really good song though. It's again, it's not a filler, but and I do actually stand by it when I say that if that song wasn't on there, it wouldn't be a Pantera album.
I think that's one of the songs that I was sort of talking about earlier with Rex holding down the rhythm behind the solo.
Yep. Yes, definitely.
And there's actually a few on this album, but that's one I noticed. The next song,
Live in a Hole.
Yeah.
You've got Rex's bass line in that, but then you also have Dime doing all these pinch harmonics and the slow bends.
Now, most bands would track a rhythm guitar behind that solo, I think. But I don't know what the reason was why they didn't do it. I think it's effective that they didn't, but maybe it was because they don't have a second guitarist live. So
that's what made Pantera too. Is they didn't need it, man. They just had Rex's bass and Dime's guitar, and that was enough.
Yeah, I mean Dime's guitar is busy as hell. Like he's not fucking around. But
no, not at all.
But Rex definitely holds it down. So does Vince. So I reckon that sounds really heavy when it's just a bass behind the solo.
Live in a hole, but stay close to my mind, 'cause they don't understand what burns in my mind.
And the lyrics for that song discusses the struggles of individuals overcoming social anxiety.
Which
they choose to isolate themselves because the only answer is I can't read properly now. You fucked me up.
But yeah, you're right. It's all about people dealing with being an introvert pretty much. And
my fear grips the will of stone. My grip
fears I will die alone.
Yes, thank you. Yep.
And that's a powerful lyrics from Phil. That's one of the things Phil was really known for. Is such a short sentence, but so powerful in what he's saying. And when you think of that, I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm not an introvert, but I'm not an extrovert either. And it's like, it really depends on people's moods and that sort of thing.
Depends on the other person.
Yeah, it really does. I'm one of those people that I tend to feed off what the other person is given to me, if you know what I mean. Like when I first come and shook your hand tonight, when I walked in the door and stuff, you know, I was pretty quiet in that because, you know, I hadn't seen you for over 3 years now, and people can change over that sort of time. So you sort of learn and you gauge what that sort of other person's like, and that's what I know. I've probably changed a lot since you've last known me. I was out of control when you probably last seen me, and you know, and I've mellowed out over the years and stuff. But that's just what we do, is we mirror people. We mirror people.
Yes.
And again, that's what that song is really, really good about. It's like, it's one of the things with a lot of lyrics compared to lyrics that are pulled out these days from some of the people. It's like we can really connect with lyrics back in the day and really make them our own, and we really feel something with those lyrics, you know. Some of the lyrics, like Live in a Hole, it's one of those songs where, depending who you are as a person, you could potentially strike a nerve with you, if that makes sense, and really, really hit that nerve in you and really trigger you. You know, it really depends, or it could be Walk, or it could be Mouth for War. It really depends on what you're feeling and what you've gone through at life.
And then you hear like Phil and that talk about this shit like 30 years later, and that also affects your perception of what they are as well. And I think Phil, for me, like, he's really in tune with himself, which helps me because sometimes I feel like I'm so fucking out of tune with myself.
Yep.
I appreciate and look up to him that he's so connected with himself and he knows who he is and that sort of thing. Not that I don't know who I am, but I tend to.
Well, I think I know what you're saying, man. I think we all lose that. We all go through that stage in life where we start to debate ourselves and we start to second guess ourselves of who we are as a person. And in saying that, we sort of start to look up to other people to be like, okay, so I want to be where Phil's at. I want to be there. Or it might not even be a singer from a band. It could be a parent. It could be a higher power of some sort where you go, I want to be at this level. But in a nutshell, we all, you know, we grow and we decline as well, and we just hit different levels in our lives that we need to take a step back sometimes and try and find ourselves. Is that sort of hitting a nail, or where you're trying to come across there?
Yeah, and I think it also, what you said about mirroring ourselves to someone else, like I wouldn't be able to just sit here with anyone. And how long have we been going? Like,
couple hours.
Over 2 hours now. I wouldn't be able to do this with just anyone. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, to me, that means I'm a big fan of you, and
Cheers,
I love
mate.
you.
You know, I've always been a fan of you and your work as well, mate. Always been a fan of it.
So, you know, but, you know, if you met Phil is going to be Phil. The same with probably Axl Rose. You know, people like that.
You get what you get. They're not gonna pussyfoot around they're not gonna mirror you. You're gonna mirror them, if anything.
And I don't purposely mirror anyone, but at the same time, because you're such a legend, I find it easier to be open and stuff like that. If I thought you were a dick, well, this probably would have been over an hour and a half ago.
You shut down a little bit if you don't connect with someone in a nutshell.
Doesn't mean I'm going to call you a dick, but in my mind, you're a dick, and this shit's over. Get out.
Yeah.
But we're still here, like almost 2.5 hours in.
I love you, man.
And people are like, when is this episode going to fucking end?
There'll probably be a bit of an edit with some stuff cut out of it, but you know, that's what it is, though, man. You know what I mean? It's one of those times in our life where it really grabbed us, you know what I mean? It was a big part of our lives. The early 90s to the mid 90s was a massive, like people talk about the 80s all the time, but for us it was the 90s, man. Like I still have my Alice in Chains shirts. I still got my Metallica shirts and everything. And I still got my white high tops that I used to wear and my flannelette shirt.
It was a great time.
It was insane, man. And I'm not going to let it go, man. I don't care.
Nah.
It was me, man. That was my era. That was my time. I love it. It was raw. It was powerful. It was us to a T. It let us be ourselves. It was at the time when, you know, back in those days, guys, if you tried to tell your parents that, hey, I don't want to join the family business, man, that shit would not fly at all. But it's when we started to get a voice in the early 90s and go, hey, I want to do what I want to do, and if you don't accept that or respect that, then I'm gonna part ways and I'm gonna move on. And that's what, you know, that's what I see a lot of in the 90s. You know what I mean? A lot of people started shaping their own way, and individualism started really becoming a thing in the 90s.
We need a little bit more of that in the 2022.
Most definitely,
man. And I'm trying to think. I don't actually remember what my first Pantera album was. I think my introduction was Far Beyond Driven.
Yep. Brilliant album.
Through my friend Pete.
Yep.
Our first bass player of own kind. I think it was Far Beyond Driven, and from there, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I embraced it all very quickly, wholeheartedly.
It's not hard to. It wasn't hard.
It was all over.
Yep.
What do we got next on Vulgar?
Did we touch Live in a Hole? I think we touched on it.
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, we touched on it. So after that was Regular People, which was a brilliant song.
Yeah, that riff.
That was Regular People.
That's a great riff. And then by Demons
Be Driven. And you know what I love about this song? It's a weird time signature.
Yeah.
But it was made into a commercial song because of the movie. There was a movie and it had it in it. Oh, boy, that's going to kill me, man. It was about it's about the banks. It was all about the banks and stuff. I
think it
was based on a true story. It had Brad Pitt in it and anyways, the part in
Wolf of Wall Street or something?
No, it wasn't Wolf of Wall Street. That was about thingy. But anyway, there was a cutaway scene sort of thing where Christian, what's his name? Christian Bateman?
Slater?
No, not Christian Slater.
The Batman guy?
Yeah, Batman dude. What's his name?
Fuck.
Christian someone. But anyway, he's sitting there.
Oh, fuck, what's his name?
Yeah, I know, it's going to kill me, man. But anyway, there's a cutaway scene where he's sitting behind, you know, he's a high-end banker, you know what I mean, earning thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and there's this breakaway scene where he's sitting behind a drum kit, and by Demons Be Driven comes into it, and it's like...
Really?
It's like civils coming, it's like
really? Wow.
And it goes for about 2 minutes, this scene.
Really?
And it's like, I just, at the time, because this was like a mid-2000s movie, and I'm like, I can't believe that
song.
This is commercialised. This is commercialised Pantera in a high-budget Hollywood movie.
What the fuck is his name?
Oh.
Dude.
Sorry, I'm sorry, guys.
That's going to drive me nuts.
I've got to Google
I can
this.
see his face. Christian.
He was also in
a million things.
Christian Bale. Christian Bale.
The fighter and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it was Christian Bale, and he was in...
What was the movie?
Well,
you got your phone there.
Sorry, I've got my phone here.
Yeah.
The video died? Don't stress, man. Don't stress. Don't worry about the video. The video died, guys. The camera died. We're still here.
The phone's still going.
That's all right. That's okay. Christian Bale. Let me just look up really quickly because it was an amazing scene because it was like 2 minutes of him just playing this song.
Yeah.
Acting credits. Just have a look at his acting credits. Oh man.
The great no.
I can't remember, man. I can't remember.
It was about the banking collapse.
Yeah, it was about the banking collapse and the corruption within.
The Big Short.
The Big Short. Yes, that's it. The Big Short was about the banking corruption and stuff like that. And he was in that. And a whole 2-minute dialogue of him just playing By Demons Be Driven by Pantera. And it's a great riff by Dimebag. You know, it's like. I
don't remember that from the movie. Admittedly, this was one of my least favourite songs from the album.
Yeah, but what's amazing is after they done Far Beyond Driven, they released this little booklet, and they had a couple of edits of By Demons Be Driven and Walk and stuff. I don't know if you remember those at all.
No.
I can't remember what it was called, but it was a very special. It was a little booklet. And it had the band copy of Far Beyond Driven on there with the corkscrew going up the dude's ass, which was banned here. It was banned here in Australia as well, and they had to change it to the going through a skull rather than going up a dude's ass. So,
well, they've just released a comic thing of some sorts for Vulgar 30th, like a comic book or something.
Yeah, I read that. I'm like, I'm going to go. I reckon I'm going to go down to one of the comic book joints tomorrow and try and find myself a copy of that.
Let me know how you go.
But and then of course, obviously, you know, after By Demons Be Driven, we had Hollow. Hollow is really. Well, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this right now because it's a really raw, emotional song.
Yeah,
and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Hollow was actually made up of 2 songs. So Hollow was the first part of the song. Then the second part where it gets chunky and stuff was actually a song that they wrote called, from what I believe, called Janet. And they combined the 2 songs together to make the whole song Hollow. But anyway, it's about, obviously, you know, if you listen to the lyrics, it's almost like one of Phil's mates or something that had gone into a deep coma and was left in a comatose state. And he sings about, you know, him not being, you know, he goes there talking to him and he talks and talks, but he can't hear him and stuff like that. And I guess, you know, the end of the song, I think Phil was saying a few weeks ago with his interview with Rex that Phil didn't want to end on a soft song at all. So Phil was like, we've got to make this song heavy. We've got to chunk this up, and which is where Janet come into it. And they just added that, you know, he has Hollywood's eye alone, a struggler, you know, and that's where that part of the song come into it, and it really just, what a crushing song to end an album with, man. Like, seriously.
I love that outro. That's a jam sort of outro.
Yep.
And, you know, I love hearing Phil sing like that, and I think it was one of the last times we would hear Phil sing like that.
That's right. That's exactly right, man. You know, I don't think they did a ballad on, besides Suicide Note Part 1.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a ballad on the next 2 albums, like Reinventing the Steel.
Everything just got heavier and heavier, and, you know, whether he couldn't do it or he just didn't want to do it. Yeah. But the outro, I love that whole song, but the outro, the groove of it, just the way they jam it out till the end. I think it just fades out, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah,
it fades out,
just
which
keep
is
going.
It's a real, guys, it really is a brilliant album. As you know, I'm going to let you take over, man, because, you know, this is a Vulgar Display of Power. This is your podcast, man. But, man, I could talk shit about this fucking forever, man. But it's an amazing album, and, you know, it's one of my all-time favorites. You know, it's one of, you know, if anyone ever says to you what's one album if you were stuck on a deserted island with, what could you listen to? And it's like, this would be one of those albums for me.
Yeah, well, I think this was a good way to finish the album, and it was actually the fourth single off the album. Hang on, there was 4 singles released off the album, and this was the third, Hollow.
Yeah, Hollow.
But I don't think it really charted.
It didn't really make leeway. It didn't break through really.
No.
And I guess they only released it because they thought because it was a bit of a power ballad sort of thing that might gain traction, but it just never did. But I mean, for your true hard, Pantera fans, it's a brilliant song, and it's one that's going to stick with any Pantera fan.
Yeah. And on the live album, they released official live 101 Proof. There's a medley.
Album.
There's a medley called Dom Hollow.
Dom Hollow, and they finish with Domination and then go straight into the arse end of Hollow with the heavier, chunkier bit.
So it's got like the solo, or would you say mosh part of Domination into the solo, and then they go into the outro of Hollow, and that's really cool too because I think the outro of Hollow is what makes it, but I do love the song as a whole, and I think it's a good way to finish the album. But we can't finish yet because I don't know if a lot of people know, but there was actually a song that was removed from the album, and after when was that released? I can't remember. I think it was the 25th anniversary of 20th, was it? Yeah.
And they released the song Piss, which was a song that they were meant to record for Vulgar, but they actually removed it from there. And they re-released Vulgar with Piss on it for the 20th anniversary. Yeah. And it's a great song. It's like, and you listen to it and it's like, holy shit, this is just Pantera through and through.
And I think for the video, they got requested
all the fans and everything, everyone to come in and just it would have been great to have been a part of. I remember watching that video, and I think what's her name? Dimebag's missus, someone Heaney.
Oh fuck.
I can't remember. She had a big part of the video as well.
What's her name? Oh, dude, killing my fucking memory
right?
here.
See what happens when you get old, man. You become
Rita
Heaney. That's it. Rita. She had a big part of that video and stuff because she wanted to keep that Pantera legacy alive, and they really did it with Piss, because when you hear that song Piss, it's like, you can really hear how it was supposed to be a part of the Vulgar album, but instead they ended up taking a riff out of that and playing it on Far Beyond Driven.
Yeah.
And then, years later, obviously they've re-released Piss in its true form, and you can hear that riff in there, and you hear the song, and you understand completely why it should have been a part of that Vulgar thing. But obviously, having your A&R managers and that said, we might not be a fan of this song, let's just leave this one off here, and we'll save that for a back catalogue.
Yeah, I mean, they could have had 12 songs instead of 13. I don't think if they added an extra song to that, it would have made much difference.
Not at all.
To the album, but it must have been a reason for it.
That's right. I was about to say that everyone has their reasons why they cut things from. Look at, as you said, Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. They had so much material there that they just thought it'd be better to let's just do a double release at the same time. Yeah. I mean, you think about Metallica and how many songs they've written and how much material they've got sitting there that's never been released, and maybe one day we may be lucky enough to hear that.
Yeah, well, I did have a copy of, I remember I bought the 20th anniversary of Vulgar, but when I went looking for it in the last couple of days for this episode, I can't find it, so it's gone missing. I lived with our housemate a couple of years ago, and I reckon he might have it. But anyway, that had Piss on it, and I think it might have had a bonus DVD on it with
the video clip and stuff on there. And I think, because when it was released, I was pretty sure they released them with bonus stuff and that. You remember the time when they were releasing CDs with videos and stuff on there?
I think it had the Monsters of Rock shit
it
on
was
it as
like
well.
a deluxe copy or something like that.
I can't remember.
But what an era, huh?
Yeah, and before we go, like the album cover is a photo of a man being punched in the face, and it was shot by a Brad Geese. It's a bit of a, it's like Guise, like juice. Geis. Yeah.
Yeah, Brad Geis.
Who also shot the photo for Cowboys from Hell, the front cover for Cowboys. The band told the label they wanted something a bit more vulgar, like a dude getting punched. I think the original version showed like a boxing glove punching someone in the face. But the band didn't like it. And they said, like, a popular rumor was that, I think Vinnie Paul said the original version, or the initial version was a man got punched in the face like 30 times or something like that.
Well, if I can just interject here, man, I remember back in the day, as I said, guys, we didn't have Google back in the days. So everything was just referred to from rumours and things that people had read and heard back in the day. And that was one of the rumours, is this guy had been punched in the face like 30 times trying to get the ultimate shot of him getting punched in the face. Could you imagine that going through? Because you look at that photo, that's not like edited, or it's not like someone's just put your fist in his face and we'll take a photo. This is like a full-on punch to the face, and as he said, as the album title suggests, it's just a vulgar display of power. and it's you know what? Like, Craig, seriously, man, that's what the album is, man. This entire album is just one massive, vulgar display of power from Pantera.
Yeah. Well, the photographer said whoever the model was never actually hit.
Oh, wow, okay. See, that's the thing. Everything was all hearsay back in the day. It was all, no Google there or you couldn't call anyone to verify information. So you just take what you heard as what it was, as fact.
So there was a few rumors floating around, but either way, it's a great cover. It's a great album. And we're very grateful to have grown up with this album.
Definitely.
No matter, I can't remember when I got into this album. It might have been 10 years after. No, it would have been sooner than that, because I saw Pantera in 2001. So
definitely before that.
It would have been before that.
Yeah. Might have been when Trendkill come out, I reckon.
Yeah, like, I started playing guitar probably 1995, and, reading the Guitar World mags and that sort of thing. Like, Dimebag was always in that shit. So
that's all I remember.
Yeah,
as I said, reading those hot metal magazines and stuff like that. That's all you'd go in there for, waiting for for Pantera, what they're doing when the next album's coming out, or what's Megadeth doing, or I remember seeing stuff from Coverdale and you'd always get in there. I don't know if people remember this stuff, but you used to have what was his name? I think it was Spud. There was a little comic in there by a little dude called Spud who'd go to concerts and stuff all the time. And it's a great magazine. If you ever can pick up a copy somewhere, guys, have a look on eBay or that. But they were great magazines. That you often see giant Metallica posters and that with would half fill your walls and that. And every year they'd bring out their poster magazine, which was just, had like 15 posters in it or whatever. And it was a brilliant, you know what it was? It was because it was Australian. It was an Australian magazine. It was just brilliant. And that's where you got all your gossip and all your info from.
Do we still have shit like that these days? Like, I know we've got Kerrang and stuff.
See, Kerrang and Metal Hammer and that, they're all UK based, if I remember rightly. we don't really have much Australian stuff. I think most Australian stuff these days is all internet based these days. But you need to understand, to make a magazine like that costs heaps. And, back in the 90s, to run a magazine, you had all your editors and trying to interview people and putting an interview together and typing it all up. And it was just incredible work. And then I guess over the time, people stopped buying the magazines. You have an expectation of how many people you expect to buy the magazine over the years. And if that starts declining, then I guess, outwarrants the reason for making the magazine, which is why I guess it dropped off in the end. And like many magazines, if you know what I mean. But when you talk about web-based magazines, it's a lot easier these days. You just need a couple of, paragraphs and stuff and a photo to put there, and you've got an article there right there and then. So, but yeah, that's how, back in the 90s, that's how we got our information. That's how we know that Pantera was touring. That's how we knew that Pantera was releasing a new album, or what Phil was doing in his time, that he was breaking away from Pantera and trying to tee up with, do something with Supergiant Ritual and stuff like that. We didn't have the marvel of the internet back then, which is really unfortunate at the time, I suppose, but that's all we had. And we lived and breathed through those magazines. And, I guess when you think of Guns N' Roses and what song was it where it's like, where they're giving crap to all your magazines and stuff.
Get in the ring.
Yeah, get in the ring. That was all about the magazines and stuff, because they would just, talk shit about these bands without knowing the true facts about them and stuff, because it was all hearsay. And I get that, but that's how people would get their information, and there wasn't anything else available at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it made you hungrier for that information because it wasn't at your fingertips.
That's exactly right. I mean,
you had to wait for it.
We were lucky enough today to be able to go, what was that name? And we could Google it and go, oh, that was it. But we didn't have that opportunity back then.
Yeah. Well,
Vulgar Display of Power, dude.
Vulgar Display of Power.
That's what we're here for today. 30th anniversary, man. That's quite an album. It was a legendary album. It's gonna be one of those albums that will outlive its time. I truly believe that. I think, our kids, our great grandchildren will be like, if they get into like rock music or heavy metal, it's they're gonna be like Pantera. They changed the way of heavy metal for us and for generations to come.
But this was only the start.
The start, man.
From there you had Far Beyond Driven, you had The Great Southern Tranquil, and you had Reinventing the Steel, which, it was a different time then, but this was just a start. So let's leave it there.
Craig, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me. So good to catch up with you again, brother. I appreciate it, man. It's great to talk shit about Pantera to someone who has that same, mentality as myself for the band, man. And they really were a great band. And we are so lucky to be in a time where these guys actually existed, and so lucky to have seen Dimebag play live on stage and seen Vinnie Paul play live on stage. And I can't express that enough, man. We are truly incredible, lucky human beings for being in a time when this band existed.
Yep, I agree. And, I pick up the guitar every day and I watch different guitarists every day and listen to, and Dimebag is just, I'm sorry, but he's just above most.
He really did, man. To me, he flies high above anyone. As I said, man, put all your big guitarists there, Steve Vai and all those guys, man. But he flies so much higher because of his tone. He had that raw originality about his sound, man, and no one can do that. I'm yet to see a guy reach another guitarist reach his level. Slash can almost reach his level through his originality. But as I said, when you think about Steve Vai, Yngwie Malmsteen and all those guys, they were just guitar players, man. And I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion. That's my personal opinion. They were just guitar players, and they didn't have that originality about them. They didn't have that raw sound. They didn't have that unique sound that Dimebag had.
Yeah, each to their own.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not to take anyone or take anything away from Yngwie or Steve or Slash.
As I said, man, that's my personal opinion.
No, I agree, man. Like a Dime, like Yngwie and Steve Vai, like they did instrumentals, like they weren't your traditional sort of songs.
Yeah.
But like Dime put these into songs with vocals, like radio sort of songs, and I love Slash. Like Slash always inspires me to play guitar, and he's up there for me. But Dime is just on a different level, and maybe it's just something you can't explain.
Until you hear him, see him play, watch guys, you'll never truly get a grasp of what Dime was truly about. You've just, as I said, guys, listen to this album, watch the videos. Only then will you understand what Dime was about. Yeah. And I think only then will you understand, and you will get an understanding of what Dime was about and who he truly was.
Yeah,
as a person.
And it's not to take anything away from all the great guitarists, but I read a quote somewhere. I can't quote it exactly, but Dime had the same sort of scary speed as like an Yngwie Malmsteen. But
and you can hear that in just some of the songs he plays. Like if you hear a New Level and that solo where he's just like for like 2 minutes flat almost.
Try and play that shit and you'll fucking get it.
I guarantee you're gonna have sore fingers, guys. Like you can put your calluses to side. Like to be honest, it's like you need the calluses and the speed to be able to do that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's not many guys at that level. Like there's Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, there's so many good guitarists, man. Yeah. Let's be honest, right? And I'm going to say this quite frankly. We live in a time right now, from the 70s up until today, is a great time to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
We have had some of the most influential guitarists of our lifetimes. You go and have a look at your top 100 guitarists and have a look how many of them are still in our top 100 now and how many are still alive now and how many have passed. We are so lucky.
Yeah.
So lucky. But in saying that, man, let's just talk about guitar for 2 seconds if I can, right? How long has guitar been around for?
Well, 50s. I mean, there was stuff before that, like
Yeah, for sure. Like obviously, guitar was in. I don't know. I'm not a guitarist, but I'm guessing the guitar was invented in the 1800s at some point, or the 1700s or 1800s. So it's only a small amount of time, and you think of where guitar has taken us to this point today. You know what I mean? You can't hear a band much these days that doesn't have a guitar in it.
Yeah,
and it's quite amazing.
Mm.
When you think of a band, you think drums, you think bass, you think guitar,
and
a vocalist.
Yeah,
but there's lots of things with bands where you think about bands consist of other instruments as well.
Yeah,
such as let me talk, and I'll say you can edit this shit. I don't mind, right? My former band that I was in, Soul Dusk, right? I wasn't even a drummer in that band, right? I was a percussionist in that band. I remember when I recorded that album, the amount of percussion I put into that album was phenomenal. But you can, clearly it's in there, but you can't necessarily hear it.
Yeah.
But it's those little tiny little things that just fills, and you know this yourself by adding djembe and stuff in your previous albums and stuff like that. Those small little instruments actually help fill out albums, and you don't necessarily hear them.
Yeah.
But they're there.
Yeah.
And it's those small instruments that make all the difference. Even if it is just one guitar coming in with 2 or 3 notes for an entire song. But that could be those 2 or 3 songs that make that entire song what it is.
Yep. It's part of the artistry of recording, and it's even though you might not hear it, the same as Rex's bass, like we were talking about.
Exactly, man. Rex's
bass, you might not
bass
hear
is
it
like
straight up front, but it's there,
fucking there. It's there. You're gonna hear it. And if Rex's bass wasn't there, man, it wouldn't be Pantera. It's not gonna be there. And man, did you ever read Rex's book?
No.
Rex bought out a book. He bought out a book, man. And it's a brilliant book. And I'll be honest, man. It's like you'll read the book and you'll be like, holy shit, because he paints Pantera in a different light, dude. He actually had a lot to say, man. He has a lot. I'm not going to spoil it, but he actually has a lot to say, Rex, because out of all of them, man, he was probably the most sober one out of all of them. And he has a lot to say. And I remember when he released a book, Vinnie Paul actually had an issue with him for releasing the book, because there's a lot of stuff in there that Vinnie wasn't happy with him releasing. And that's a actual fact too, man. So like he went on record for saying that. But if you get a chance, have a read of I can't remember what it's called, but it's Rex Brown's book on Pantera. So really good book.
Well, he had a lot to say in that interview that we were talking about with Revolver. You know, he's obviously remembers a lot, and he's pretty interesting to listen to. And he played bass for Down. Yeah, with Phil.
He was the original bass player for Down, and then he decided he didn't want to do that anymore because it was causing problems with Pantera and stuff. Yeah. And he just decided he wanted to stick with Pantera. I know he's done a few projects after Pantera, but I mean, he's always going to be remembered for Pantera, Rex Brown. He's a kick-ass dude, and just watching him in that interview was quite amazing. Quite amazing to hear what he had to say as an individual and as a major player in Pantera, because you know Pantera. I guess you'll probably agree with this. When you think of Pantera wasn't Phil. Pantera wasn't Dime, and it wasn't Vinny, and it wasn't Rex. Pantera was one of those bands where they really were a band as a whole. They worked together, and they just... words can't even describe it. It was just insane. They just really worked together. You couldn't put it down to if Phil wasn't in the band, then it wouldn't have been Pantera. If Dom wasn't in the band, it wouldn't have been Pantera. If Vinny wasn't in the band, it would have been Pantera. And if Rex wasn't in the band, it wouldn't have been Pantera.
And I guess that's why we never saw any sort of reunion or revival or, you know, any sort of other version of the band.
And as you were saying, man, there was so many talks about that in the 2000s about, you know, a reunion show with Zakk Wylde playing guitar and stuff. But it's I'm sort of glad it never happened, because now we just have... We got Pantera to listen to, man, and Pantera is who we have today, and Pantera is and always will be Pantera, and nothing will ever, ever, ever replicate that band.
That's right. Well, rest in peace, Dime and Vinny. Thank you, Pantera. Long live Vulgar Display of Power, and long live Pantera, and we will see you for a 30th anniversary of Far Beyond Driven.
Yes. Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You're feeling that drink, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
I am, dude. I am. I didn't think it'd hit me so hard. Playing that solo, and he does those slides where he's like...